I appreciate everybody coming out. It's a fairly good-sized crowd. We're attempting something a little different here, although there have been previous meetings of the Board of Selectmen. We're trying to accommodate everybody and trying to do it in an environment that has some air conditioning. We had no idea what the temperatures would be like. But to begin with, welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, June 3rd. We'll begin the meeting and call the meeting to order by requesting for signing of a warrant.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
I as well vote in favor. That's unanimous. Next, we have the approval of the meeting minutes.
Move, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
I also vote in favor. That's unanimous. For the benefit of everyone here, I just want to go through some process so that folks have a better understanding of what exactly we're trying to accomplish tonight. First of all, this is a Board of Selectmen meeting, and as such, we're going to be going through some business, the regular business of the Board of Selectmen. I want to start off by saying that I want to say thank you to the superintendent and Robert Tremblay for helping to facilitate this meeting and to get the meeting organized, to do the light checks, the microphone checks, and all of the logistics for setting this up, and I truly appreciate it. It's an asset of the community, and Bob was very supportive in using this facility to help arrange a meeting of this importance. I also want to thank Rick Villani for all of the work he did in order to set up this meeting and work with Bob and make sure the logistics are gone as smooth as they have. Thank you, Rick. Again, I've talked about the regular session. We have about 25 minutes of regular session meeting, and then we'll go right into the developer's presentation. I am asking that whether or not you are in favor or against a casino proposal, or whether or not you've made up your mind yet, that we ask that people show the good graces that Milford always has to our guests and not yell out anything. There will be an opportunity for open microphone, and that'll be following the presentation and following any board questions that they have. For the speakers, there is a sign-up sheet. It was outside. We're going to bring that in when that presentation starts, the developer's presentation, and we'll be calling names from the people who have represented that they would like to ask a question. It isn't an opportunity for the speakers to state a position, whether they're pro and con. It's for the people to ask questions. That microphone and that list is opened up to Milford residents only, and those people who have businesses in Milford. We will ask that they state their name and address for the record, and if they're representing a business, that they state who that business is. This board is obviously conducting the business of Milford, and as such, it is the residents of Milford and its businesses that we have primary concern over, and the process that we're managing here this evening. It's not for all of the surrounding communities. They have their own process to work through, and while we think your opinion might be important, it's not necessarily important to this process here or this community's decision making. We ask that the speakers limit to one question. I'd also ask that you try to maintain, through asking that question, you try to ask it within as brief a period of time, because this board does have business after this discussion. It has an executive session, and we'll be going into executive session following the presentation and following the questions. Again, I'd ask that you identify yourself and your name and address, and if you're representing a business, which business that is. As with any board meeting, we ask that people who ask those questions or have any particular questions, that they address them to the chairman of the board, myself, and that I'll seek the appropriate subject matter expert from there to see who's going to answer a question. But we ask that the dialogue that the residents have that dialogue with the members of the Board of Selectmen, and specifically the chair. In the event that there's a question asked that we don't have an answer this evening, we'll do everything we can to get you that answer, and provided you have your name and we've got your name, we'll get back to you and seek you out. If it's a big enough question, what we'll try to do is if we hear a common theme emerging, we'll try to post information on the website. I know I've interrupted the regular agenda, but I do want to ask a question. I'll go to the Town Administrator, Rick Villani, to detail some of the information or what we're planning in terms of a website. Rick, do you have that information?
Yes, the website should be available tomorrow afternoon. We intend to put up there any and all information we gather, including replays of the meetings of the selectmen. We will have any types of mitigation reports, both presented by the casino experts and consultants, as well as the Town of Milford consultants. We intend to put up correspondence that we receive from our council. And any and all information we gather. Hopefully we will have artist renditions of the casino and the relevant buildings. So any and all relevant information should be available on the website. Again, we hope to have that, we should have that running tomorrow by mid-afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick, and thank you for going to work on that with our consultants to put that and make that available to the residents. Okay, with those comments made, we'll go on to the regular agenda meeting as outlined. The first order of business is a meeting with Treasurer Barbara Ogier, requesting refunding and discuss bonding issues.
Good evening. With me this evening is our financial advisor, Margaret McLean, from Unibank, Unibank for Savings in Whitensville. And if there's any specific questions about how we structured this refunding, Margaret's here to answer those questions for the board. So the board received a memo from me dated May 31st. And what this is about is a refunding of two loans, an issue dated January of 2002 and an issue dated March of 2003. After 10 years, the town is able to refund debt. So this is something that I, as treasurer, look at regularly to see loans as they're coming upon 10 years, whether or not it makes sense to refund that loan. I do this by asking our fiscal advisor to run some numbers and to determine whether or not it's sensible to do that. When we first looked at this, Margaret ran some very conservative numbers. It looked as though the town may save $650,000 of interest costs by doing this refunding of the debt. Our sale was last week on Thursday, and on that day we received 12 bids. And of those bids, the low bidder came in at 1.419%, which is extremely low for a tax-deferred bond sale. We were really pleased with the results, and our savings are going to be $864,000. So the refunded bond issue is actually going to be to refund debt associated with the Godfrey O'Brien Brook, some sewer construction projects, the senior center, Memorial Hall, and the Consigley land acquisition project. In preparation for this bond sale, we did prepare an official statement with the assistance of the department heads at the town hall, as well as Margaret from Unibank, and that document was sent to Moody's and reviewed by Moody's, and we had a call last week on Monday to talk about the town's bond rating. It was a very favorable discussion. We met all the requirements that Moody's had suggested we meet in order to be qualified for a bond rating increase. We showed increased reserves. We showed growth in revenue. We showed improved wealth factors. In the end, Moody's came back and said, we need to continue to show increased reserves. We need to continue to show improved tax increases, tax revenue increases, and we need to show improved wealth. So it was quite disappointing, but they did reaffirm our AA2 standing, and they gave us a very positive review, which I attached to the information that I gave you. So in your packet, not only did you receive my letter, but you received a list of the 12 bids. And interesting to note that the estimates were based on 2.5%, and our highest bid was 1.9%. So we did quite well on all bids all around. And the rating report received from Moody's is also attached. I hope you had an opportunity to read it. I did summarize it at a very high level in the interest of trying to save time for the main agenda item of tonight's meeting. But if there are any questions, both Margaret and myself are available.
Barbara, we do have other business, but this is important as well. Do you have anything that you wanted to specifically highlight out of Moody's? I just want to give you the opportunity.
Yeah, I think I did. They indicated that we had a sizable tax base, which, you know, we had mentioned during the meeting that the water company was doing an expansion. The Milford Hospital is looking at an expansion, and the possibility of the casino, which would all bring improved revenues into the town. And they took that information, and I guess they want to wait to see some of that realized before they would consider an increased rating. So hopefully, as far as the town of Milford is concerned, maybe once, you know, the water company's online and there's a significant
How about with
advancement.
respect to what we have today in terms of the rating we have today and some of the,
Well, they reaffirmed our AA2 rating, which is a very high rating for municipal government.
Okay.
So we are where some of the more wealthier communities are in the state in terms of a bond rating. And improvement now is dependent upon increased tax revenue, improved wealth of the community, and what's the third thing? The tax-based growth.
Yeah, I think that a lot of communities would be enviable of our position, and we appreciate the work and contribution you've made. I'm not going to go further than that because there's another time to discuss the changes that might be coming. But that said, is there a motion by the members of the board?
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Brian?
And what exactly is the motion on?
The motion is to accept the bond that Barbara's presenting, and specifically, in order to reduce, I'm going to read from the sheet.
It's to vote to accept the refunding of the January 2002 and the March 2003 bonds.
If he just reads it, it's fine. So,
And further, to accept the bids as received from Eastern Bank.
Okay. Is it any problem with the mechanics of this in your mind if I just simply read from this, the voted portion from the government?
That would be fine.
Okay. And I'll do that for the benefit of the people who might want to review this later. Voted in order to reduce the interest costs, the treasurer is authorized to issue refunding bonds at one time or from time to time pursuant to Chapter 44, Section 21A of the general laws, or pursuant to any other enabling authority to refund the town's $2,278,000 general obligation bonds dated January 15, 2002, maturing on January 15 in the years 2014 through 2020 inclusively, in the aggregate principal amount of $700,000 and $12,240,000 general obligation bonds dated September 15, 2003, maturing on March 15th in the years 2014 through 2023 inclusive, in the aggregate principal amount of $5,510,000, and that the proceed of any refunding bonds issued pursuant to this vote shall be used to pay the principal, redemption premium, and interest on the refunded bonds and cost of issuance of the refunded bonds. Is that
and then just the, yeah, that's fine. And then just, now you're going to approve sale to the winning bidder.
Okay.
So it's the next paragraph.
Now, for the purposes of the sale of the bond, further voted the sale of the $5,990,000 general obligation refunding bonds of the town dated June 15, 2013, to Eastern Bank Capital Markets at the price of $6,143,762.14, and accrued interest is hereby approved and confirmed. The bond shall be payable on January 15th of the years and in the principal amounts, and bear interest at the respective rates as follows.
So there's a schedule there, Mr. Chairman, and you probably don't have to
Okay.
go into that.
All right. So, is the motion more clear now?
Yeah.
Okay? Members, okay? Then we have a vote?
I'll second the motion.
Okay. And I'll also vote in favor of that. That's unanimous. Thank you, Barbara.
Can I grab that vote document from you?
Yes. Thanks again. Next item on the agenda is change of manager for 99 West Street, doing business as 99 Restaurant. Is there a representative here from 99 Restaurant? I'm not sure there will be any questions, but you can introduce yourselves to the board and state the purpose.
My name is John Wright. I'm one of the managers at the 99. This is Liz Duffy. She's the general manager. We're just looking to change the name on the liquor license as our ex-general manager has left to pursue other career changes.
All right. And is there anything you want to represent on behalf of the new manager in terms of experience or?
Liz has been with the company approximately, I think, 10 years. Worked in numerous locations. Last stop she worked in was Hudson and Woburn Four Corners, Mass, and been with us for probably about 5 or 6 months.
Okay. Are there questions from the members of the board? Comments?
Yeah,
Questions?
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I'd recommend, sir, is that, within a couple of days, that you call the police chief, have a meeting with the police chief as a new manager and all that, and he can tell you some of the concerns or some of the ideas that we've done in the past, and I just think it would be a good way to start a relationship. Okay?
Okay. Is there a motion to?
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Brian?
I don't have any comments or questions, just congratulations, good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. That vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is fortune teller license, represented by Tony Mitchell. Take your time. It's a long walk.
Hello?
Hi, how you doing? I'm
Doing
Tony
very
Mitchell.
well. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Before we get on with the question at hand, I just want to go through what is typically provided to us by our department heads. The building commissioner has noted that this is an allowable use for the building and that it's zoned appropriately. The town planner has indicated that the use of this site is okay as requested and that there's no change of actual use. Excuse me. The tax collector has indicated that there's a current existing open lien for sewer and income and expense to the total of $1,726.64. The town treasurer has no issues. The fire chief has no objection. The police chief also has no objection. All right, I wanted to introduce your request first with what the different department heads had noted. And thank you. If you want to introduce yourself again and
Yes.
tell us what you're seeking.
Yes. My name is Tony Mitchell, and I live in Acton, Mass., and I also have a business there. I manage it, and I also manage the one in East Boston that we have, Miss Mello, reader and advisor, palm and tarot card readings. It all started in 1967. My mom started the business, and we're just continuing it. And we have a place there in East Boston, also known as the airport, and we have a place in Acton, Mass. And here, I have my business certificate with me right there.
Okay.
The one from Acton. And we comply with all the laws wherever we go. And we're looking to open up shop here in Milford also.
Okay, you're familiar with the general laws required, and I'm going to open it up to the members of the board and see if they have any questions or comments.
Yes.
Dean?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm all set at this time.
What are we doing regarding the outstanding sewer lien and taxes owed?
Has there been any discussion about that?
There has not. It's my understanding that typically the board could seek to deny the permit, but in typical fashion, usually the board will allow.
I'm sorry, gentlemen, I can't
I'm
really
sorry.
hear you.
Usually the board will allow the permit in that it gives the owner an opportunity, obviously, to collect income to hopefully pay that lien, but there has been no discussion with the owner of the property.
Are you going to be renting from the property? Or do
Yes.
you own the real estate?
Renting.
Okay.
Would that be the renters?
Well, it depends upon your lease, but what I'm going to suggest is I'm going to ask the town administrator to make contact with the landlord and make resolution on that outstanding tax of approximately $1,700.
Understood. Yes.
Other than that, can you predict how we're going to vote?
There you go.
Very good, sir.
Okay, with that said, and with the note accompanying the, well, I'm sorry, we don't have a motion. Is there a motion to approve this
Motion,
license?
Mr. Chair.
Seconded.
And it's seconded, stipulating that the town administrator will seek to get restitution on those funds and work out a payment plan. I also vote in favor, given those conditions, and good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you very
Good luck.
much. Have a good night.
The next item on the agenda is for a common vitrular license from Ning Feng Guan, Beijing Dumpling House, Inc. Is there a representative from that establishment? Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for the benefit of everyone here?
My name is Milford Guan. They call me Nina Guan. I'm trying to open a new business, a Beijing Dumpling House, on that 163 Main Street, Milford. I was thinking to open this business as there's a lot of Chinese restaurants, but they all from South, different taste. So I would like to people to taste the real Beijing food, made like a home, real Chinese food. It's not like a Cantonese food or some other places. And here's my menu.
I hope that's a sample of the food. You happen to have caught me on an evening I wasn't able to eat dinner before the meeting, so it all looks very good. And who is the person standing to your left?
This is my daughter.
Okay. Welcome.
My name is Jenny Shaw.
Jenny, nice to meet you. Okay, with that information provided, I also want to review the information provided by the various department heads in reviewing this license request, this application. The building commissioner has noted that it's an allowable use and zoned appropriately. The town planner is also okayed since there's provided an okay since there is no change in the actual use. Tax collector has indicated there's no outstanding taxes at this time. Town treasurer has no issues or concerns. Fire chief has no objections. Police chief has no issues. And the Board of Health has had an appointment, has indicated they've had an appointment with you, but they haven't worked out all the details. And you realize, of course, that in order to open the restaurant, you'd need to work out everything that there is to work out with the Board of Health, as would any restaurant.
Understand.
Okay. Any questions or comments by the members of the board?
No, I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
No questions.
Okay, so given that, is there a motion?
So next time, ma'am, once you bring some samples, we'll get it done a lot quicker. So with that, I'll make a motion for approval. Good luck.
Thank you.
And I assume it's subject to Board of Health approval? Correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes,
I'll
yes.
second that.
Okay, that motion has been made and seconded. That's unanimous. Good luck with the opening of your restaurant. We wish you well.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. Okay. Now I think we're to the business that most people have come here for this evening. We're going to open up with the developer's comments. Before we go to the developer's comments, there was a question that I've asked our council to address as it related to any potential conflict, and I wonder if you have a moment to address that very briefly.
Apparently, one of the Milford residents noted in an old newspaper...
Can everybody hear? I'm sorry, Sid. Okay.
I'll try it again. Is
There
that
we
any
go.
better? Good. Apparently, one of the Milford residents noted a comment that was made in the newspaper, I think it was last September, by Chairman Stephen Crosby, who is the commissioner of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission, that he was worried about me and our law firm having a conflict in Springfield. He made some remark that if that was the case, he was bothered by it. Subsequently, he discovered more facts. We applied for an opinion of counsel from the Massachusetts Ethics Commission, gave that publicly to everybody in Springfield and to the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. Massachusetts Gaming Commission and the Ethics Commission signed off on it as not having a conflict. Apparently, this gentleman that asked the question was wondering if there was any conflict that existed relative to Milford. There isn't. We don't represent anybody at Foxwoods, don't represent any of their participants. So other than saying, no, there is no conflict, I'm not sure what else I can
No,
comment.
and that's
Okay.
That's good, and I appreciate your comments. I'm also going to read an excerpt from the Council Moody's comments. And he said, and everybody will have the benefit, because these are one of the documents we'll post on the website to give everybody access to the information that we go over in our meetings. Jerry has noted that I've reviewed the conflict of interest law, and I have familiar with it 35 years of experience in these matters. And there is simply no conflict of interest in violation of General Law 268A and any of its provisions or requirements. So we've reviewed this both. We've asked our town council to look at it. We've also asked our consultants to look at it, and in both cases, and I want to make this as a personal note, as it relates to the law firm that was chosen by the board, we knew there was representation on both sides of the issue prior to our board making the decision. That was one of the things we were informed of prior to making that decision. And I don't want to speak for the board and what went into their thinking, but I can say personally that I thought it was a benefit to have somebody who had represented both sides of the aisle. This conflict of interest law is murky. It's difficult to navigate through. But I do want to say this. I don't have any problem with anybody raising any potential concerns, because we'll address those. It's a very fluid environment where relationships and business relationships change, and people may become aware of a potential conflict that are not known to them today. For example, I had asked Jerry Moody to look into whose land it was that was being purchased and acquired. I'm not entirely clear that I don't have a family relationship somewhere on the hill where it's being proposed. So what I've asked is that list be put together in terms of those deeds, so that members of the board and people that represented the town could look over those deeds to make sure there wasn't a particular conflict or a family member might not benefit from this and them having an official position there. But I do appreciate the question, and with that, I think we've addressed that concern. If anybody has any further questions, they can ask them later. We'll ask the developer begin their presentation. And I also want to say, Mr. Buchera, welcome to Milford again. It's good to see you, and good to see you walking better today and
Great.
looking well.
Thank you, Chairman Buckley. It's great to be here, and thank you to you and the fellow selectmen, Mr. Villani, and the great people of Milford, Massachusetts, who we've really gotten to know and care for a great deal over the last several weeks. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate everybody coming here. especially on a night where the Bruins are in a playoff game, and I know how hard it is to miss that. I see one hat right there. And come on, how great was it seeing Chara give it to Crosby the other night, huh? Wasn't that beautiful? Love it. So the fact that you are here, and hopefully everybody's got a TiVo. We won't give any insight on the score as we go through this, but appreciate, everybody being here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Scott Butera. I'm the president and CEO of Foxwoods Resorts. It's interesting. I'm just a normal person who actually was born in Boston, grew up on the North Shore in Gloucester, and how I got to work in the casino business is a very interesting analogy as to what we're working on here. I was actually at a family's home the other day on the North Shore, and I was speaking with a husband and wife, and we were talking about our daughters. My daughter's getting ready to go to college, and their daughter just graduated college, and she was thinking about the same college, and we were talking, and the wife asked me, she goes, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm president and CEO of Foxwoods. And what's Foxwoods? It's a casino in Connecticut." And, "Oh my God, you're a casino guy? I thought you ran a bicycle store." I guess I look like somebody who runs a bicycle store. Now, my wife would be happy about that. It was interesting because, I think a lot of people have a really unusual view or, uninformed view of what it really is. And, my career, I started out, as a normal person here in the Massachusetts area, loving, everything that Massachusetts has to offer. Obviously, I'm a huge sports nut, as you can tell. I went to school at Trinity College in Hartford and New York University, and spent 20 years on Wall Street, and a very traditional upbringing. But the industries that I really liked, I started out doing real estate, and then I got a little bit involved in food and beverage and entertainment and retail and all these things, and hotels, and then ultimately I started working with casinos. And when I went to become an operator, and I realized I really wanted to be an operator because I really enjoy working with people on a day in and day out basis. The thing that I loved about the gaming business, it was all the businesses that I loved under one roof. And we think of these things as casinos, but really they're much more. They're fully integrated, resorts that happen to have a gaming element. And I think what happens is a lot of people who come from the gaming industry and grow up in the gaming industry, they tend to enhance and think about what they know and do what they know. So I think, a lot of times the casino element of these buildings, gets emphasized when other elements should. And actually in Vegas right now, if you walk into any of the buildings, less than half of the revenues actually come from the casino business. So for me, when I look at these things, I really think about them as, fully integrated resorts. That this is one of 7 or 8 businesses, the gaming business. And that's really important to note, because that's how we approached, Foxwoods, Massachusetts. What you're going to see today is truly revolutionary. We're going to show you a design that's unlike, anything that's out there in the gaming business. And the reason for that is our team, much like myself, is a team that is very experienced in what they do, but also has great roots in Massachusetts. And we all know Massachusetts doesn't have a casino right now. So we approached it with a much different mindset, one that says, how is this project going to make sense for this community? How is it going to integrate? How is it going to look like something, that's been here, forever? And I think what you're going to see, really reflects that. And what we're going to present, as I said, is unique and revolutionary. We really have to not only talk about how we came up with it, but thank you, because this has been a collaborative effort. And what we want to show you is that a facility like this can truly be a collaborative effort between a very intelligent, experienced team and a great community that cares about what they want. And we'll have something that represents that, as opposed to just some silent tribute to the ambition of a single man. We're going to be unlike anything else that Massachusetts is going to see, and I'm very proud to present what we have here today. So with that, we'll turn to my presentation. I think, as we all know, we came here on April 8th to introduce ourselves. It was a great meeting for all of us. But I think it was important to get the ball rolling. We had to start somewhere. And, what we did is we came and we understood that you guys had a lot of questions and concerns. And what we found is that the town of Milford is incredibly astute, because all of your concerns were spot on and things that we think about every day. So we started and we listened. And, here's what we heard. You know, how are we going to manage traffic? You know, very important. You know, obviously for all of us, we want to make sure that getting around, you know, town is not a big pain in the butt, and that people can not only get to our facility, but get to where they need to get to, you know, morning, noon, and night when you got to get to work on time and things like that. No one wants to be sitting in traffic. So it was very important that we studied and came up with a solution as to how we're going to manage traffic. How we deal with water. You know, the casino's large facility is going to take tons of water. And I think, you know, the estimates that we had for the casino originally were much greater than what this casino will be. I think a lot of people were looking at Foxwoods, and just for those of you who don't know, Foxwoods is an 8.5 million square foot building, and what I'm going to present to you today is a 660,000 square foot building. So certainly much smaller and thereby much less demand for water. And I think what we found is there's a lot of capacity to handle our water, but obviously we're going to invest in that infrastructure and make that better. Same thing with sewer. You know, we looked around and looked at the sewer systems and found that there were some, you know, homes and families that had, you know, somewhat inadequate sewer services right now. We said, hey, how can we not only, you know, develop these things that you know, protect us and make sure that our facility operates, but how can we go beyond that and do things that are meaningful for the community so that your sewer systems can be better? So if we can come up with some infrastructure and invest in sewer infrastructure, yes, it'll satisfy what we need, but hopefully it'll make some of your situations much better, and I think we have a solution that'll do that. And then what will this building look like, you know? Let's just plunk some big giant glass skyscraper right down in the middle of Milford, right? That'd be beautiful. No, absolutely we didn't want anything like that. We had to have something, like I said earlier, that looked like it had been here forever, that looked like it had been here for 100 years, that represented the history and the culture and all the thought that goes into a great New England building. We had to do that, and fortunately we were able to find the right people to help us get there. And then have we considered wetlands? Absolutely. You know, and one of the great things you'll find in this facility is we have almost 200 acres that we're building on. 10% of it will have our building. We went to great lengths to make sure that we used as little of the land as possible so that we could preserve those wonderful wetlands so that we could have outdoor adventures. And we're going to have one of the first indoor-outdoor facilities that there is in this business where people can come in and, yes, enjoy themselves inside, but also have plenty of recreational activities, whether it's hiking, biking, walking, zip lining, you name it. You know, we're going to have wonderful things to do outdoors, and we're going to absolutely preserve the wetlands and have beautiful views and beautiful experiences as people come and enjoy, hopefully, our site. And then what will happen to property values and crime and things like that? You know, my experience is if you have a thriving community, property values go up. You know, I moved to Vegas when casinos started to grow. You know, I moved to Vegas 5 years ago because I was CEO of another company that was based there, so I'm very happy to be back here. But I saw property values grow alongside casinos. I've been in, you know, places like Baton Rouge and other areas that have had very affluent home sites next to casinos. So if you have a facility that makes sense and it makes the economy thrive and you're creating good jobs and people are learning and being educated and you're getting tourism, that'll increase property values. So our hope is absolutely property values would increase. And because hopefully there's this great economic benefit to what we're doing, property taxes will go down. So imagine that the value of your house goes up and your taxes can actually go down, which is pretty much the opposite of everything I've experienced since owning a home. And then will there be more crime? You know, same thing. If you're in a thriving economic community, you know, the crime rate goes down. And we spend a lot of time and a lot of money, you know, investing to make sure that goes right. So in our facility, you know, we'll work with the local police department and security. You know, we'll have probably a substation, police station in our facility and do everything we can to make sure that the surrounding community is safe. There's one general rule in our business. Your property's got to be clean, safe, and fun. If you're not that, get out of the business. So we absolutely will do everything we can, and it's been our experience in our community that the crime around our facility has been very good. And where are the areas that we see crime in Connecticut? Not so much in our area. It's those inner cities that have economic problems. Bridgeport, Hartford, New Haven. That's where you see crime, not in the thriving community. So we think we can solve these issues. So what did we do? We sat and we listened to all these things, and we said, we're going to come back to you guys in 6 to 8 weeks, and it's going to be no harm, no foul. We're either going to have an answer that we think makes sense, or if we don't, we're going to say, look, we really enjoyed being part of this, and we're going to move on. Fortunately for us, and fortunately for all of us, I think we've come up with something that makes sense. Okay, what was the first thing we had to do? We had to assemble a great team. You know, you got to have the right people on the bus to get to where you want to go. And I think we've done that. Obviously, you know, us as operators, we think, you know, we all have Massachusetts roots. You know, myself and David Nunes, who introduced me to this project originally, grew up in this area. You know, we really feel like we understand what's needed here. Obviously, you know, at Foxwoods, being an operator in this community for over 20 years, a lot of our customer base comes from right here. So, you know, even though it's happening in Connecticut right now and not Massachusetts, and we hope to change that, we see and feel what the customers of this area want, and we think we know that. The other thing I want to point out is we're Foxwoods, Massachusetts, okay? And we thought a lot about the name, and we thought a lot about the logo having the state, because that's what this is all about, okay? We're not sitting here saying, hey, we got something that's beautiful, that's from some foreign land, and even though you've never seen it before, you're going to love it. No, that's not what this is about. This is about Massachusetts first, the community first, the history first, the culture first, and everything else is based on that, not vice versa. Has to be that way. And then with us, we were very lucky to be introduced to Robert Allen Law, Bob Allen, who's been a great partner for ours in this community for many years. A wonderful architectural firm, CBT. These people are spectacular. They are going to blow you away. David Hitchcock and his team are going to be here today. I think you're going to be really astounded at what they've come up with. You know, these are people that design all over the world, but again, they have these Boston roots, and everyone got really excited about the fact that this project's here, and we finally get to do something for our hometown. I think you're going to be really astounded at what you've seen. Tetra Tech, I can't tell you how bright this firm is. Sean Reardon, he's going to be here presenting after me. All of the issues that you guys are worried about on a civil engineering standpoint, this guy's lived them for 3 years. He knows them. He's going to answer all your questions. You know, we're here to be detailed. This is not about pretty pictures today. This is about blood and guts, rolling up the sleeves. And I got a lot of confidence in this guy. I think you're going to love him. And with them, we have very lucky to have CRGA landscape architects, and you know, again, world-class landscape architectural firm. You talk about how important is the outside. The outside is as important as the inside, and it was very important for us to get this team on board. Perini, how do you not know Perini? The best construction firm in the world. I've worked with them my whole life. If I could get them to build my house, I would, but I'd probably be a little bit more than I want to spend. But this is by far the best firm right here in Framingham. They've been around forever, second to none, and the beauty is they know casino development better than any construction firm out there. They own Las Vegas, and again, extremely ecstatic on their behalf to work in Massachusetts. And then our feasibility analyst. Now, here's the one interesting thing. You can't find a casino feasibility expert here in Massachusetts because we don't have gaming yet, right? So it wouldn't exist. So yes, they are from Vegas, but the gentleman who runs them, Steve Galloway, is from right here in Massachusetts and graduated BC, so we got that covered. So we feel like we have a great team that is excellent at what they do, but really, really understands, you know, the Massachusetts area. Okay, so what did we do since last we talked to you, right? We had a lot of work to do, as we all recognize. We had over a dozen meetings with over 50 people. We met with people at the local, state, and federal levels as best we could. We wanted to cover, obviously, water, sewer, all the things that have to do with police chief, fire chief, town consultants, National Grid, MassDOT, and we met with the Federal Highway Administration because we're going to get into this, but everyone wants to know how we access this great facility, and we're going to have the ability to do that. And through all these meetings and all the discussions we had, the really, really positive thing is there was nothing that came out of it that said, hey, here's something that's going to prevent you from what you want to accomplish. So in terms of getting people to our site, getting water to our site, getting the sewage figured out, moving the transmission lines, all of that is incredibly doable, makes sense. We can do it in a way that, again, not only makes sense for our facility, but makes sense for the people of the community. Because we said, no. It's not just enough to do something that allows us to build this building. We got to make this a better place to live for the people of Milford. They deserve that, okay? They need that. And that was our approach, and the beauty is through all of these meetings and all of these dates, and I promise you this team worked tirelessly because we want this thing so bad. We came away with great results. We're in the process of finalizing, and obviously there's always more work to do on a development project, but I think what you're going to hear today is we're in great position to do what we want to do. Obviously, it was very important that we establish a local presence because we wanted this to be a collaborative effort. Okay, we wanted this to be interactive, not for us, again, to dictate, for you to come in, teach us what this town wants, tell us what your needs are. You're living it every day. I think that it's very important that if you want to understand a community and you want to be part of a community, you have to be there. There's no absentee ownership in this world. There's no absentee management that ever works. It always, always, always fails, because if you're not there, you don't see the nuances. You can't feel it. You can't touch it. You can't break bread with people. It's very important that we did that. So we opened our storefront just as soon as we could right on Main Street, and we engaged the community. That gentleman there in the yellow jacket, hopefully you all know him, is Alan Kronberg. We hired Alan, who obviously is also from the Massachusetts area, although he wasn't born here, but certainly lived here through most of his life. Alan, I think hopefully all of you met him. If you haven't, you're doing yourself a tremendous disservice, because he'll usually buy you a drink. But Alan's been meeting with everybody and talking to everybody, and it's been great to have him here working with the community. And obviously we have our own website so that people can plug in and see what's going on a daily basis. We did incredibly detailed project planning from resource area inventory, which again is all about wetlands and how we can work with you on those things. We did traffic impact studies, archaeological historical surveys, water, sewer, architectural plans and renderings, site plans, stormwater management report, landscape concepts. We're going to be here a little bit tonight, but we're going to go through all of these things because it's very important for you to know how much work went into this, and what we're putting in front of you is something that can really, really happen. It's not a picture on a screen. It's something that's been thought through, and it's something that if we all work together, we can make happen in a very timely standpoint. There's a lot of data and a lot of research and a lot of hard work that went into what I think will be the pretty pictures that you'll see tonight. Obviously, we had some things we had to consider. Great history here in Milford, tremendous history. Obviously, the pink granite is something that's important to this community. The pink granite will be right on the front of our building. Okay, we want to tell everybody this is Milford. This is a building that's spawned from Milford. So very important that we understood that. Obviously, great history in the construction business. Very proud. You should all be very proud, and your leaders should be very proud of how fiscally responsible this community is. This is a community that earns its paycheck and pays its bills. It's incredible, in today's day and age. I'm really, really impressed and excited about the pride that people have in their community and the fact that they run a very tight ship on a financial standpoint. It's going to make it very easy to work with you guys. What we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, we're going to take this great, budget that you have. We're going to give you more so that we can enhance things. We can enhance the school systems. We can enhance the playgrounds. We can give you more so that you can grow more. Money should be in this town's hands because it'll use it correctly, okay? We put a lot of money in a lot of people's hands that waste it. And that's why this United States is in the situation that it's in now. If the U.S. ran its ship like Milford runs its ship, we'd be in an unbelievably great spot, and foreign countries wouldn't be kicking our butt the way they are. So I absolutely want money in this town's hands. I'd rather have it in your hands than anyone else's. Proud heritage, just walk up and down the streets. That's why you're all here tonight. You're all here tonight because you're proud of this community. This is a family-oriented community. You have great values. And we're going to make sure that those values are preserved in everything that we do. Okay, here's what we found. Here's the good news. We found that we can solve the problems that we laid out. We can solve the traffic problems. We can minimize the impact on wetlands, actually make them beautiful, make them an attraction. We can meet the water demands very easily. Again, enhance it. We can meet the sewer demands, make it better for people. And we can win a gaming license. We can win this license. This is the right place to have this casino. It's going to happen. People in this community are gaming already. They're gaming at Foxwoods. They'll be gaming here, whether it's here, Everett, Suffolk. Might as well be here because we can control it, we can do it right, and we can do it in a way that makes sense for Massachusetts. We will create the world-class resort that we're talking about. We will do it. We'll make it happen. Okay, we got to do something that obviously meets the expectations of the community. And we spent a lot of time thinking about what is Milford that respects the environment and the landscape, very important to us, and reflects our New England heritage. Okay, this is every person of this team, this was their lives. Actually, up there in the right-hand corner is Gloucester. I threw that in. But that's what, in my mind, Massachusetts is all about. It's about stone walls. It's about seaports and fishing. It's about beautiful landscapes. It's about great education. It's about technology. It's about going to a Sox game on a Sunday, and hopefully they win. It's about seeing the Bruins a little bit later than usual tonight because you want to be here. But these are all the things that we see and feel and baked into this facility. What's our program? Just so people don't get scared. As I mentioned, it's 660,000 square feet. Yes, we'll have a gaming facility. We'll have over 4,000 slots and 175 table games. We'll have a 350-room hotel, not a 2,000-room hotel, 350 beautiful room hotel. We'll have at least 5 wonderful restaurants. Jens Baca, who heads our food and beverage departments here tonight, the guy is unbelievable when it comes to food. This place is great too, by the way. You guys have unbelievable pizza and great Italian, all kinds of wonderful dishes here that we've had since we've been here. But we're going to work with you to make sure that we get great food and beverage facilities. We'll have lounges. We'll have a ballroom that can have group meetings, weddings, things of that nature. Again, this is meant to be a lot more than just a casino. We'll have great shops, hopefully. And structured parking, you know, people said, hey, you got all this land, just pave it and put a parking, and people love outdoor parking. No way. We can't do that. We're going to build structured parking that's in brightly lit and easy-to-use garages so that we make sure we use as little of the land as possible. So again, just phase one, 600,000 square feet, 660. If we get to a phase two, it would be another 400, all in $1 million, you know, as opposed to over $8 million at Foxwoods. And if you see if you go back one, you see in the upper right-hand corner, that's a little bit of a teaser as to what you're going to be looking at. Doesn't look much like a normal Vegas-style casino, does it? That's all based on unbelievably astute design on New England architecture. What makes sense here? That could be a campus at MIT. Okay, going to the project site, I will turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Sean Reardon.
I'm hoping you're not expecting the same kind of passion from me, but what I'm here to do is discuss a little bit about... Closer? There we go. I hope you're not expecting the same passion, but what I'm going to try to do is introduce the site to the group here and also share a little bit about what we've learned over the past couple weeks and months. The site is located in the northeast corner of the town of Milford. It's near the Holliston-Medway line, and the back property line is actually the line between Holliston and Medway in Milford. The site comprises 5 parcels of land that total about 187 acres. It's located near the intersection of 495 and Route 16. The surrounding land uses you'll see are primarily open space to the north, about 1,000 acres. That's the Vietnam biking trails and some other publicly held land. Big thing to notice here is that the commercial industrial property of Fortune Boulevard, that's what we're trying to stay close to. We're trying to keep our development density as close as we can to that commercial industrial to protect the buffer zones to the residential areas that are to the east of the project site. Just a little bit about the site. The site, for those who don't know, the entrance is a gravel quarry operation. There's a lot of grade change between the front of the site and the back of the site. It goes up pretty abruptly from Route 16 all the way up to a high point at the back of the site near the large wetland, about 110 feet of grade change. So that's one of the big challenges we have to deal with. One of the most critical parts of the project is how we're going to deal with the wetland resources. What you see in dark green are all the wetlands on the site. These are wetlands that we found by combining a bunch of resources that we had. First, the Kingsway project had a delineated wetland that was approved that we field verified, and then we also went out and did additional field delineation to make sure that we had all the wetlands shown accurately. The little white dots that you see are certified and potential vernal pools. That's another wetland characteristic. It's just another challenge that we're going to have to deal with. One of the big things to note is the priority habitat that's shown to the north of the project. That's a smaller area than what it used to be. About 5-6 years ago, the spotted turtle was taken off the priority habitat species list. So what happened is that area compressed and actually was removed from the site that we control and is now exclusively to the north and west of our site. One of the other big challenges we have is to make sure we provide enough buffer from the development to the resource areas that are out there right now. So what we've done as a strategy to make sure that we have enough room to work and to do what we want to do is that we've established a 30-foot offset from all of the wetlands that are on the site. This 30-foot offset is measured to the hardscape, such as roadways or building edges. We will have some landscaping or grading areas within that 30 feet, but right now, everything that's a firm edge is 30 feet from the wetlands. We've also kept another 50 feet off of wetlands that have vernal pools in them or off of stream locations. So that provides us another 50 feet to work in that, that we won't be disturbing for buildings or hardscape. What you'll see too, once you overlay the wetlands and once you overlay all the other buffer zones, is that two development areas start to develop. The first is the lower part of the site. This is about 50 feet lower than the top part of the site. About 42 acres, and you'll see it's kind of narrow, but it's still a pretty sizable parcel that we could do a development on. The upper parcel is about 50 acres. The challenge with that is that's principally upland area, but it has a lot of vernal pools and a lot of wetlands that we have to work around. But our goal is to try and keep density. The upper parcel is closer to Fortune Boulevard, closer to 495, and also up on the higher end of all the wetland resources. So all the wetlands that you see end up migrating to the north. So what we want to do is keep our development from being in amongst all those wetlands and keep it towards the top of the system. One of the bigger challenges, too, since we want to develop the upper part of the site, is what you see highlighted in orange is the transmission line for National Grid. This is not just a small transmission line either. This is a major transmission line that serves most of the eastern seaboard. The two 350 kV lines and two 115 kV lines, that's a lot of power. But what we did is about 2 years ago, we met with National Grid. We were trying to figure out if there's a way we could put it underground. In about, I'd say about a half an hour, we found out pretty quickly that that wasn't going to be a possibility, but they did agree to meet with us, and actually they proposed the idea of relocating them above ground. So what we've done now to essentially clear that footprint up top to allow us to develop on the north part of the site is relocate the transmission lines above ground on new towers. Now, what this does is it allows us to maintain the buffer zones to the nearby neighborhoods, and it also gives us another bit of buffer between the development and the adjoining neighborhoods, and it keeps all of our density further to the east and further to the south so that we're closer to Fortune Boulevard and all the higher intense uses over there. So what you start to see is that this site lends itself now to our proposed development. In total, it's going to be about 2,400 feet. That's just under a half a mile from the residential uses. And the closest element is going to be about 1,400 feet. That's going to be the relocated transmission lines. So now that we've showed you real quickly about where we're hoping to develop, now Mike Hall from my office from Tetra Tech is going to come up and explain to you how we hope to get people there, to and from there with traffic.
Thank you, Sean. As Scott mentioned, if one of the important things, if we can't get traffic come in and out of the site safely, then really we failed. And when we first came to the project, working with the Foxwoods folks and the development team, we established some guiding principles on how we were going to try and figure out this access management problem. And those guiding principles include safe and efficient access to the resort, minimizing traffic impacts on the local roads, providing traffic benefits if we can on the local roads, and we have to meet the requirements of the Federal Highway Administration and the Mass DOT. Those two agencies control the jurisdiction of Route 495, and our goal is to get as much traffic off of 495 directly to the site as possible, so we have to work with the requirements that they set forth for us. Now, tonight, I want to try and answer three fundamental questions I'm sure most of the people in the room have. One, how much traffic will come to the resort? Two, where are they going to come from? And three, how will we get them there? So let's start with the amount of traffic. The table you see up here represents the traffic estimates we developed for phase one of the project. And as Scott mentioned, that was about 4,250 slot machines and some gaming tables. These estimates that you see in the table represent trips coming to and from the resort site. So whatever you see in terms of actual numbers, it's half of that is arriving and half of that's departing. These numbers are generated based on the number of gaming stations. So that's a combination of slots and seats at gaming tables. This is a requirement the state DOT has laid out for us, that we should use gaming stations to generate traffic. So for phase one, the combination of slots and gaming tables is about 5,100 gaming positions. These traffic numbers that I'm showing you also include all traffic. When I say that, what I mean is employees, guests, deliveries, trucks, anything coming to and from the site is included in these numbers. So I want to point out a couple of items, I want to highlight a couple numbers for you. First of all, maybe no surprise that Saturday is the highest day of the week for the resort. And the Saturday peak, which occurs from 5 to 6 p.m., is also the highest hour of the week. The second highest, though, is Fridays, and particularly Friday evening as people come to the resort for the weekend. So that's 7 or 8 p.m. The good news about those numbers, particularly the peak hour numbers, which really kind of dictates how traffic will operate, is the 5 to 6 p.m. on a Saturday, traffic on 495 is much less that time than it is during the work week. And on Friday evening, 7 to 8 p.m. is after the p.m. peak hour. So the volumes you're seeing here on this table are the volumes associated with phase one plus phase two. And that's a total number of gaming stations of about 6,800. The fact that this resort is going to be developed in phases presents a unique opportunity. Once phase one is complete, we will begin monitoring traffic immediately, and we'll find out what the issues are, and we will also be able to better project what phase two development will have in terms of traffic volumes. This is something that Foxwoods does down in Connecticut, and actually the numbers from the Connecticut facility were the basis of our projections that you're seeing here tonight. So where will they come from? We developed an analytical tool that's called a population gravity model. We looked at all the cities and towns that are in a 60-mile drive radius of Milford. And within that 60-mile drive radius are 274 cities and towns and about 4.9 million people in population. So that's what we're calling the catchment area. We gave special treatment to the communities within a 30-mile drive radius because people who live within that 30-minute drive radius are more apt to come to the resort. So those towns were given a higher weight, and we're doing our analysis. We also factored in the other casinos that are either existing or will more likely to be in place when this license is granted to the Milford site. And that includes the two existing casinos in Connecticut, one in Western Mass and one in Southeastern Mass, and then Twin Rivers in Rhode Island. So communities that are close to those casinos, there was a deterrent factor, if you will, that factored down the amount of people who might come to this particular site. So, and to get you oriented, just so you'll see, this is Milford right here. So in that model, what are we estimating? About 68% of the traffic will come from north on 495, the Mass Pike. 24% from the south on 495. That gives us at least a total of 92% of all the traffic coming to and from the site will be on 495, not local roads. 1% from Route 16 from the west. 2% on Route 16 from the east. 3% from Route 109 from the east. 1% on Route 85, and 1% local traffic in Milford. So how will we get them there? We are proposing to construct a ramp system called a collector-distributor road ramp system. And that, one way to think about that is it's like a high-speed frontage road. And what it does is collector-distributor roads or frontage roads connect closely spaced interchanges on an interstate. So a good example of what we have up here is the exit 11 and 12 in Mansfield for Route 140 and 140 north and south, down by the Comcast Entertainment Center. So you can see that the CD road is built on the outside of the main line 495. So that's the approach we're going to take in Milford. And I have a diagram to illustrate how that will work if you're not familiar with the interchange and the CD road system down in Mansfield. So this little sketch represents the way the ramps work today at 495. And so here's 495 north and south, Route 85, Route 16, no ramps, and Route 109. So today, if I'm going to use Route 85, I'm going to use Route 85 as an example. So if you're coming on and off Route 85, you do it directly onto 495. With a CD road system, you go on the CD road first and then go to the ramp. The ramps will stay where they are today. Same with you getting on. You get onto the CD road, you travel along, it's high speed, then you get on the highway at the end. Now, how these sketches translate to real world for Milford, we're going to put those CD roads schematically on an aerial photograph for you, and I'll get you oriented first. Here's 495. North is in this direction. Here's exit 20, Route 85, exit 19, 109, and this shaded area here is Route 16. The site is here. So we were to construct a southbound CD road on the exterior of 495, connecting exit 20 and 19, and build a CD road on the north side of 495, connecting exit 20 and 19. We would build ramps near the site that would take the drivers going to the resort up to a higher level, cross over 495 into what we're calling the Route 16 connector road, and then connect down to Route 16. From that connector road, there would be driveway and access roads to the proposed resort area. Now, you may ask, why are you going through all the trouble of building CD roads? Sounds expensive. Why don't you just build a ramp system right there? This gets back to one of our four guiding principles, and that's meet the requirements of Federal Highway Administration. They have a minimum spacing requirement on interstates, and right now the Route 85 and Route 109 interchanges are only 1.9 miles apart. That's actually substandard according to Federal Highway. They're looking for 3-mile spacing on rural interstates. So trying to squeeze a third interchange in was not possible, and the direction we got from Federal Highway Administration was to tie the interchanges together with a CD road, so there's basically one off and one on ramp rather than introducing a third on and off ramp in a short distance. This is their perspective on maintaining the capacity integrity on the interstate system for 495 itself. So that is why we have the CD road system rather than a ramp directly to the site. You may also ask, well, why are you connecting Route 16? Is that necessary? It's necessary, again, for a Federal Highway Administration requirement. We cannot connect a highway ramp system directly to a land development site. It has to tie into a local road or public way. And that public way would be Route 16. So if you're traveling in the future on the CD road, you want to get off on Route 85 or 109, these blue arrows show you how you would, this is in the, I'll give an example in the southbound direction. You just get off into the CD road, you can exit either 85, you could go to 16, or to 109. In a northbound direction, it's similar. You exit from 495 to the CD road, you get off an existing ramp that's there today, and that's no different on 109. You have an option to go to Route 16 or 85 from that same system. Now, for vehicles traveling to and from the resort, and this is the example from the north on 495, to go onto the CD roads, over the bridge, and directly into the resort, never going on local roads. And from the south, the same thing. Traffic would get off the CD road, stay on the CD road to the ramp, turn right onto the Route 16 connector, then into the site. Traffic exiting the resort, identical. Comes out, takes a right, this is northbound traffic, takes a right onto the CD road, travels along the CD road, and then onto 495 northbound. And again, the same thing for southbound. Again, so traffic accessing and egressing the site, other than local traffic, does not have to be on local roads, and this is at least 92% of the traffic. So, one of the two of the guiding principles we had is, if you recall, was not to have an impact on local roadways. So we think the CD road system does that. We also wanted to provide a benefit, if we could, to local roads. So I'm going to walk through a few graphics here that show you how we've achieved that and how we've minimized the impacts on local roadways. So just to get you oriented, this green is 495 and the site's here. And we have, as part of our work, has conducted a traffic study that looked at 16 critical intersections in town along 16, 109, and 85 that would provide potential access to the site. And so what we found in our study with the CD road option, and I'll give you just a few examples. I'm not going to run through all 16. So these are sort of the key ones that we found. The first one is the intersection of Route 16, that should say Route 85, Fortune Boulevard, and Diller Street. So today there's about 32. This is the Friday afternoon peak. There's about 3,200 cars going through that intersection. And you all know that, as we all know, that intersection does not function all that well. So this project would only add, because we have so much traffic coming from 495, only 13 cars that are casino related, or about 0.4%. At the intersection of Fortune Boulevard, Beaver, and Route 16, it's about, we anticipate about 38 cars being added during the peak hour, and that's 1.5%. 38 cars at 16 and 109, again, 2% increase at that intersection. Route 16 and 85, about a little bit less than 40 cars, 1.8% increase. And Route 16 and 140 on the west side of town, only about 26 new cars because related to the casino, and about 1.2% increase. So that is how we feel like we're going to manage and mitigate traffic impacts and access to the site. And I'm going to turn it back over to Sean to talk about some of the utility measures in mitigation.
Mike, can you just grab that stuff in the podium?
So this is just 260. So just for clarification, this obviously was put together very quickly, so there was a decimal point error, so it's 260 cars instead of 226. So all these are a factor of 10 off. So I know there was some comments. I'm sorry. I know there was some comments in the crowd, but we just want to make sure that people understand there was a decimal point error on these slides.
No.
So, no?
No, they're not. They're fine. No, it's only 170.
Never mind. All right, never mind. I should just talk about what I'm supposed to talk about and not anything else. All right, so I'm here to talk about water and sewer. Obviously, water has been a problem for quite a while in town here, and the fortunate thing is we've talked a lot with David Condrey over at the water company, and you should all feel pretty good about who's running that show now. David's a pretty talented guy, and I think he definitely has the best interests of Milford in mind, and he's a very good manager. The town is supplied by principally three sources. Echo Lake and the Charles River are a surface water supply. They also have 3 wells at Godfrey Brook, Clarks Island, and Diller Street. There are also several emergency connections to Bellingham, Medway, Holliston, and Hopedale. There's also a 4th well in town that's an emergency well. All of this material, all this water is processed through the water treatment plant over at Diller Street and is accessed to the distribution network through a series of storage tanks and booster pumps. Our site is going to get water as well from the Milford Water Company via their distribution system. The site in particular is served by an 8-inch water main in East Main Street. Now this 8-inch water main has had a lot of problems over the past 10 years with a lot of breakage. So currently it's in the municipal plan right now with the water company to replace that line with a 10-inch main. We're working with the water company right now to make sure that that 10-inch main is suitable for what our needs are, as well as to make sure that it allows for the next layer of development that might come. We're also considering, at the request of the water company, to connect a loop Because if you look at the line that connects down East Main Street, it dead ends. That puts the situation where the loop itself is not reinforced, so it can, during a fire or during some extraordinary need, it could lose supply. So looping back to the Fortune Boulevard main is a good thing because it provides redundant service and it also gives a level of safety. The challenge there is that we'd have to go over private property to get that. So what we've also looked at is putting an on-site water tank. Right now, we've provided all our demands to the water company, and they're running it through their model to see if an on-site water tank will help provide the service and the redundancy that they would like to have. Okay, the question about water availability. Right now, the current demand in Milford is about 2.63 million gallons a day. Our site in Phase 1 will require about 0.17 million gallons a day. That's 170,000 gallons per day. These are average demands. That's the way the regulatory environment works. They do it based on average flows. During the summer, obviously, use goes up quite a bit, but we're using this because this is a metric that the permitting agencies use. So our total demand between the town and the site would be about 2.8 million gallons per day. Right now, the town has an approved safe yield from DEP of 3.68 million gallons per day. That's almost 1 million gallons more than your current usage is, and that with the new casino Phase 1. The authorized withdrawal. The safe yield is what the DEP allows you to withdraw from the aquifer before it could create unsafe conditions for adjacent communities or other wells. The authorized withdrawal is a demand-based number. What DEP does is they set a number based on the actual town's demand to force towns to be conservative with their water usage. So you see there, the permitted yield and the permitted withdrawal rates are several 100,000 gallons per day higher than even our proposed demand. The problem we have is that the current production of the wells that the town has just barely makes over the needs that, covers the needs that the town has. At times it can produce more, but it can't reliably produce it, so you end up having shortages during the summer, peak summer months. But the important thing here is that the issue is not the permit. The permit is the hard thing to control. Those are things that take 2 years, 3 years to get addressed. Production is exclusively in the control of the Milford Water Company. They are right now, as part of their capital plan, investigating 2 or 3 different options and currently have them in their budgets to do these projects that will increase the water supply in town. We're also committing to help them explore new resources. So great news there is that we've got plenty of authorized capacity about underneath the safe yield, plenty underneath the authorized withdrawal, so no adjustments with DEP are required. All we have to do is figure out cooperatively with the water company how to increase their production. The important thing to note here too is safe yields are no joke. Okay, so if the 3.68 million gallons per day is a number that DEP has approved, it's safe to assume that the capacity is there and that it's safe to withdraw that amount. The challenge is upgrading systems and upgrading production to match that number or to match what the town needs. So our strategy for working this out, first is, probably the most important thing in our mind, is be responsible with the water that we use. Scott mentioned that, yes, the casinos are a very big water user, and that's principally because we have so much extra heat to get rid of. I think the story I heard when we did on the Milford Casino was that for 11 months out of the year, the casino is releasing heat. So they only use heat for 1 month out of the year. The rest of the year, they're trying to get rid of heat. So what that means is that in the August months, we use an incredible amount of water just for cooling tower demands. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out ways to reuse water on site, to recycle and treat that water to reuse in our cooling tower makeup. We're also going to, and this is pretty much standard fare at most large facilities, is store rainwater for use for irrigation. We will not use public water for irrigation on the site. The next big thing, and this is an idea from David Condry of the water company, is that we're obviously going to use low-flow fixtures throughout our project, but he also suggested that we look into retrofitting the schools. Right now, the schools don't have high-end low-flow fixtures. We can go in the school system, install those fixtures, and reduce the overall town demand. So that creates capacity for us to use, but it also saves money for the school system. The other thing is to increase supply. So we mentioned this earlier. There are several projects on the books right now where the Milford Water Company is going out to look for supply. Admittedly, those are earmarked for just normal future development. So we don't view any that we have any right to that work. we're going to still strive to do things beyond what Milford Water Company is currently doing to make sure that we're going beyond what we need to do. Right now, they're currently in the planning stages of assigning a connection fee for new projects. The connection fee for us, based on our usage, will be in excess of $2 million. This money goes to finding new sources, goes to making the existing sources more reliable. The other thing we've discussed with the water company is assessing us with a high-volume surcharge. What that means is that because we use so much water, we'll pay more money for that water than the residents will. So our rates for the higher water use will be higher than yours, which means yours will go down. The last thing we'd like to do is, we're in a pretty susceptible area on the site with our high elevation and our position at the end of a water line. So what we want to do is make sure, we mentioned this a little bit earlier, is do stuff that increases reliability, increases pressure on our site into those areas near us. So we're investigating right now with the water company what we can do about putting an on-site water tank or connecting back through to Fortune Boulevard. The next thing I just want to cover is sewer collection and treatment. So unlike the Milford Water Company, which is a private water company, your town operates its own sewer department. And it's been run for several years by John Meany. He runs a really tight ship. You know, he doesn't let anything go. So I think you can feel comfortable that if he agrees with us that there's a way to provide sewer to the development, then there's a way to provide sewer. The components of that sewer system, though, are principally gravity sewers, which collect and flow by gravity, pump stations and force mains, and a treatment plant that's located down by Hopedale, down in the southern part of the town. They also, in our area, a series of septic systems that, because of the location that we have on site, and because of the residents on East Main Street, it's nearly impossible to get that flow to the wastewater treatment plant without several pump stations. We've had talks with the sewer company about building infrastructure that is needed to serve our site, but extending it all the way down East Main Street to give the residents in that section of Milford, off of Zane Ridge and other areas, an opportunity to connect to sewer. So where we sit relative to average daily flow in the town, Milford currently treats about 4.3 million gallons per day of sewage. It's slightly higher than what your water usage, because water usage, the component of the base flow, is slightly lower than your water usage because some of the water that you buy is used as consumptive. Some people use it for irrigation, some people use it for other uses that don't return back to sewer. The other portion of that flow of 4.3 million gallons is what's called inflow and infiltration. This is water that's not sewer. This is water that gets into the sewer pipes from other sources, such as if people turn their sump pumps on in their basement and connect it to their sewer line, well, that's not sewage, that's just inflow. There's also infiltration, which comes in from leaky pipes or leaky manholes. So you can see this water that's not real sewage is almost equal to the amount of sewage that you produce. Our project at phase one will be about 0.2 million gallons per day. That's about 10%. And our inflow and infiltration number is slight because we're building new infrastructure, so there may be some component, and we're required by regulation to consider that component, but it's de minimis. So our total flow post-project will be about 4.5 million gallons per day. Now, the treatment plant right now can treat 13 million gallons per day. So the question there is, well, we've got 4.5 and 13. What doesn't make sense there? Well, the issue is the peaks. So at peak flow, your base flow in town at most is 5 million gallons per day. So that's normal usage in peak flows. The bigger component is inflow and infiltration. So when the water table is high and when it's raining outside, that's when most of that bad water, the infiltration water, the water that's not sewage, is getting into the sewer system. So as you can see, even at the peak day, the maximum daily base flow is less than half of your treatment plant capacity. The true challenge is getting this inflow and infiltration out of the system. Now, John Manini and the sewer department has been at work for this for several years now. They've got a great plan in place. They're going out in the community right now and trying to get people to disconnect sump pumps. They're paying for those relocations. We're going to continue that process. So the key for us is to go out and find that inflow and infiltration, reduce that number, and increase the effective capacity that you have in your sewer system. So back to our strategy for sewer. Again, the same principles we apply to water. The less water we use, the less sewer we'll generate. So we're committed to water reuse and low flow fixtures on our site, as well as doing something in the schools. The bigger component is eliminate inflow and infiltration. Now, what's important to understand here is that we are required, the state DEP, as part of our MEPA filing, will require us to, at a minimum, remove 4 gallons for every 1 gallon of flow that we increase the system. So that would mean for us, at about 200,000 gallons per day for our commitment to the system, over 500,000 gallons per day of net flow out of the system. And this is not something that's arbitrary or discretionary. This is a component that will be absolutely part of our MEPA approvals. Now, and even recently on projects, John has asked for a 5-to-1 removal, so this number could even go up. But this is the most important component. If we eliminate inflow and infiltration at a rate, at the 4-to-1 rate, it means we're taking 4 times as much flow out of the system as we're putting in at the time that the system needs it the most. And the last thing we talked about is the new infrastructure. We're currently on an unsewered section of town, so we will at a minimum have to install sewer for our development. And that sewer will include a pump station, and it'll include gravity infrastructure. What we're planning to do right now, and we've done concept designs, and John's going to be looking at them soon, and Tata and Howard's going to be looking at them soon, is develop a plan that we think works that extends sewer all the way to the town limit at Holliston. What this will do is give everybody in those communities that are east of our site an opportunity to connect into the sewer system. We will take on the responsibility of operating any pump stations and managing any of the infrastructure, but the town and the residents that currently are on septic systems can connect in. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to David Hancock, who's going to run through the architecture.
Sean, can you grab the presentation?
Thank you, Sean. And thank you, Scott, for the opportunity to be here and to do what we do best and what we love best, which is designing great buildings in New England. Firm has been around for close to 50 years, and we're proud of all the work we've done. We approach each new project by looking at the principles, design principles that we'll use in establishing a new project. And in this case, our design principles are really 3 very simple ones. To minimize impact, to minimize the development's impact on its neighbors and on the site, to embrace the New England aesthetic. It's Scott's challenge to us, and it's a challenge we very happily undertake. And third, to engage the natural landscape. As you saw from Sean's analysis, only about 10% of the site will be covered by buildings. The other 90% will be developed and available for amenity use on the site. So very quickly to recap, then to minimize the development impact, the site is 187 acres. This is a graphic that shows that topography, the rugged terrain that Sean talked about. Here at the south end, fairly low. Coming up, this little graphic here shows the darkest green is the lowest area, and the brightest purple is the highest area. So you have a kind of plateau area in here. You have a wetland running down through it. You have another plateau area over here, and there's some highland, of course, across the way. You might have seen a helicopter flying around 2, 3, 4 weeks ago and hovering low. That was us. We were out reconnaissance tour to have a look at the site and see what it looks like from the air and see how all the pieces are related. And this is what we found. From the air, 495 is one of the most dominant features near the site. The site itself, however, is second growth hardwood forest. There's a maintained clearing here under the power lines. You don't actually see the power lines. The reason you know they're there is because the ground is cleared underneath them. Across the way, in the commercial industrial zone, you have a lot of very large rooftops. This is maybe 100,000 square feet here. You have a lot of open parking areas. In general, this kind of development is more like 50 or 60% impervious, where what we're talking about is more like 20 or 25% impervious. We also saw the town of Milford, compact development, a quarry nearby, and the nature of residential community down along West Main Street. And we saw the ponds and the wetlands and the vernal pools that Sean is talking about. When we get down on site, we visited the site several times, and over the course of the last 6 weeks, while we've been working intensively, of course, it changed from winter to summer. So we've seen the site in both those conditions, when it's open land and when it's completely closed over. We marveled at the rocky outcrops and the beauty of that terrain. And we also remarked on the way the site has the potential for great recreation land, and we know that just across the border in the Vietnam and even in parts of this site there are great mountain biking trails. We know that can be enhanced and added to with multi-use recreational trails, walking, hiking, strolling, and educational uses. As Sean pointed out, there are really just 2 areas to develop, and that totals 85 acres. And the access to the site proposed here, coming off 495, the CD roads and the road in. This is really, this little traffic circle that's going to be developed is the access to the site. Putting all that together, there were, again, as pointed out, 2 potential areas. What we've said is that this area near the highway and away from the residential development is the best place to develop, and that the other piece will be saved as 20 or 30 acres of managed woodland forest recreation land. So, you saw the program proposed, the 2 phases of the program given in terms of numbers of gaming tables and numbers of hotel rooms and numbers of parking spaces. In this graphic, we're showing it in amount of square footage and the amount of surface area of the building, floor area of the building that's dedicated to these uses. And it's really interesting to see that just as Scott said, the gaming piece up here is really not the biggest piece. This is a resort. It's a big hotel. It's a big hotel. It has lots of back-of-house service. It has restaurants and banquet space and lounges and retail and all those businesses that Scott talked about, and of which gaming is part of that business. The second phase, built on the success of the first phase, is that this is a resort that people are going to very much want to come to, and there will be demand for additional hotel rooms. So you can see that the biggest piece of the second phase of development is to double the size of the hotel and to add a little bit to the gaming because it's been successful, to certainly add to the banquets and the restaurant space because more people coming to stay for longer periods of time is more success. Could point out also that people who come and stay for a while don't add to traffic. They only come once and they only go once. Now, if we take that square footage and we spread it out evenly, like spreading it all out on a football field, it looks like this, which is actually more like 10 football fields. But that's not our intention. The intention is to minimize impact, and the way to do that is to bring all of this together and to stack the building up. So the parking garages stack into structured parking. The hotel rooms, the hotel stacks up into 5 or 6 stories. The back of house uses and the service facilities get tucked underneath the building. So this compacts the whole thing to this small footprint here. The actual building footprint, as you can see, is about 17 acres, or approximately 9%, a little under 10% of the site. There will be additionally roads, and shown here in the low gray around the bottom, that will also produce some impervious area. That's for the environmentalists something to look at. But the main point is that of the current site now, 10% will have buildings on it. The other 90% of it will be open to the sky, just as it is now. So, summarizing minimizing the impact, we're well away from the existing residents. We're tucked closer to 495. And down at the bottom are some sections through the site. So you can see here is the residential community, and here are the power lines, and over here, 2,400 feet away, is the resort development. And in between is all of that woodland. And you can see that from down here, you have to look uphill, you look at trees, and if you continued looking in that direction, you wouldn't see the casino. So we'll get to that in a little minute, too. The second of our guiding principles was to embrace the New England design aesthetic. And we think of this in terms of, first of all, the landscape and the variety, the great variety of New England's landscape, from wetlands to seacoasts to rocky lands to open meadows to wetlands with trails in it to agricultural fields, woodland trails, the whole gamut. And of course, through the seasons, we get the change of colors. Next, we thought about the structures that are built in New England, the covered bridges, the barns, the traditional architecture of the New England states is an architecture produced by flinty craftsmen, really, people who had a minimalist approach to solving problems, who were very good at solving problems. You know, the reason that covered bridges exist, the roof on the bridge was to protect the structure from the weather, and that's why we have covered bridges. The shapes and forms that we use are generally fairly simple geometric forms. And so this inspires us in our architectural design. Another organizing element that we use in towns, in campuses, is the green or the quad or the common. And these come in every different shape and form that you can imagine. I'm reminded of the five-sided common in Cambridge, Massachusetts, to the traditional town greens that you find in small towns throughout the region, or the college campus, the quad. And the great thing about this is that it's a space that you come to and you can see all the buildings. You can sense how the whole thing goes together from that one space. So that's an inspiration to us. Another is the grand hotels and the way they occupy the lands and the sites where they're located. These are large buildings, but they're kept in scale with their site. And they always have a close relationship in some way to the landscape they occupy. So, for instance, you see here, this is clearly oriented to a grand view out across the landscape. Here's one that's in intimate, almost say conversation with the lake in front of it. So there's an intentional relationship between the building and the landscape. Here's the Mount Washington Inn, which of course has that grand relationship not only with the forest but with the hills behind. These buildings often have porches, and one of the reasons for that is that the New England climate, even though we do get heat waves and we do get blizzards, most of the time it's pleasant to be outside. And the porch or the terrace or the colonnade is that kind of space that mediates between inside and outside. So part of our intention is really to celebrate that permeability of the building skin. This resort will not be just inside and it won't be just outside. It'll be a place where you can come and go. Get outside for a walk, come inside for the activities or a meal. The stone walls, stonework in general, is a great New England treasure. As driving around Milford, I've just been astounded at the variety of ways that people have used the local stone for retaining walls, for stairs, for building foundations, for stone walls that separate fields, for edging and paving of every sort and type. And we take great inspiration from that, and we want to build that into the resort in all possible ways. To engage the natural landscape, we've called on the services of a team member. We're a completely integrated team. Sean is a civil engineer. Phil Colleran from CRJA is a landscape architect with long experience. We've all worked together very closely in producing this design, and we owe a lot to CRJA for the landscape design work.
Thank you, David. And thanks to everyone for holding up through all this. It's a lot of information to take in at one time. I'm going to go through the landscape concept, and really we could sum up the overall big picture concept through the landscape here as we're going to create a variety of passive and active spaces that will create memorable experiences to visitors throughout the site. And what that's going to do is that's going to really create a series of landmark environments that are going to be interwoven between the New England landscape and the resort experience. And in doing so with the development, we're going to create an environmentally and culturally significant landscape. In saying that, and before we start a project like this, we always look to the overall site program and what creates the makeup of a project like this. And for this project, we want to embrace the New England aesthetic, and as David mentioned, the town green. It's through the use of the materials that we'll use within the site, bringing in culturally significant spaces such as sculpture parks and performance areas, really tying in the connections to the site back into the town, the community, the resort experience, and creating open space that not only that you can use when you come to the resort, but that will be available for the town. Now, engaging the natural landscape, it's very, very important for us to respect the site and respect the New England aesthetic, but also create a program that benefits the community as well as the resort itself. So we're looking at a variety of programmatic elements, both active and passive, that will service a four-season resort and service the community from a four-season aspect. And the community is a big piece for this project. You know, we really care about the community. We really want to integrate and connect back into the community. Certain aspects that we can use in terms of the environmental aspects, which are heavy on this project, are mitigating the wetlands to a point where these could be used from an educational component. The school systems could come in and learn about the overall systems, how they operate within the site. There'll be open space components used as parkland and connections back into the community, as well as event spaces that could be used for weddings and other activities. There could even be space for community farmers markets, but you should really think about the area outside of the resort as a big park that integrates within the resort experience, but the communal experience as well. The vegetation around the site will be set up to kind of choreograph your experience as you enter the site, but also as you move into the site, what we'll do to mitigate the wetlands. The New England forest experience will revegetate large swaths of the site. There'll be formal gardens around the architecture and the surrounding parts of the site. There's also going to be an extensive roof garden, a green roof system, which will help reduce heat mitigation and heat island effect throughout the site and really create a much greener and sustainable project. This aspect of sustainability is very, very important to the team and to the developer and our commitment to the town. And we're going to use state-of-the-art sustainable techniques from everything from advanced stormwater techniques, rain gardens, water collection, really extensive mitigation to the wetlands and respect of the wetlands. In fact, we foresee the wetlands actually working better after the development than they do right now from the ways that we'll mitigate them. You can envision the site itself utilizing these stormwater techniques with the wetland enhancement, the infiltration, rain gardens, all moving in to create a workable environmental system that can be obvious to the users and the community. And from the site plan, we're looking at a variety of active zones, event lawns, sculpture parks, the town green, as David mentioned, the extensive green roof network, but really tying back into the bike trail system, utilizing this in the winter for hiking, snowshoeing, and other activities that may support the communal structure. I'm going to turn it back over to David. He's going to talk a little bit more about the architectural systems.
Thanks, Phil. And the reason these two slides look exactly the same is because they're very similar. Just wanted to point out the building is organized around the gaming in the same way that the buildings on the outside are organized around the town green. And we'll get into that in a minute. Also, very quickly, this is the roadway access into the site, and this is the pedestrian and biking trails that will go throughout the site. This is the organization of the building as we have designed it. Here is the gaming hall. The way the industry works, they like to have all of this in one place. So what we've done is dispersed all of the other activities around it. Here is the main entry to the hotel, and this is retail and eating establishments. Here is a bus drop-off, and near there is the food court. These are the parking garages here buffering the building from the highway, and there is a main entrance into this circulation space from the garages. Here is a sports bar. All of these things look out over the wetland and the landscape, and here more retail opportunities looking out in that direction. Now, when we take that and turn it into an architectural plan, it looks like this, where the parking is here, the gaming is there, the food services are all around the outside. This is the meeting hall, the banquet hall, the main ballroom, and all of these things are related very closely out to the landscape. This is the upper level of the building, and so these are hotel rooms, 5 stories high. There's about 24 rooms in each one of these bars. I should point out that these 3 wrapping around the town green, along with the ballroom and the meeting space and the garages and the gaming hall, that forms, all of that space forms phase 1. These 3 hotel bars along through here and this parking garage form the second phase of the development. Everything I've showed you and everything we've talked about has been both phases together within the design. The building itself will also be highly sustainable. We know that we can do much better than business as usual. We can save a lot of energy to support those cooling loads and to reduce the cooling loads, and we can save a lot of water. This is a very extensive list of all of the potentials for sustainable building design. We'll investigate every one of them as we go through the final design in order to bring energy use down to the very minimum to reduce water use and therefore to reduce sewer flow. Now, what will it look like? I would like to take you through a series of pictures starting from 495. And this is, as you see, the bridge that will be across 495 to bring traffic into the site. It takes its inspiration from the great parkways of the last 50 or 60 years. This is the entrance drive-in. Once you get to the circle and you turn to enter into the site, we'll have mixed, a curvilinear kind of road that sits comfortably on the landscape, that is tree-lined and has pedestrian paths along it, and fairly minimal signage to indicate the entrance. When you get right to the building, this is the exciting part. This is the view from the town green. It's all of the hotel buildings are, as you can see here, wrapped around it. Here is the food court on this side. The porches and colonnades and loggias along the base of the building looking out to that activity space. Here is the porte cochere, the grand entrance to the hotel. You will have come up the road this way and you'll come drive around the town green, and that's the place to drop off. and enter the resort. Closer up, this is the Porte Cochere in an evening view. It's a very active place. It's the sort of center of activities of the outside of the building where everybody will be coming in. Also around the building, you will see this kind of informal landscape development, places to go for a walk, places to get outside and have some fresh air. And these are the kinds of places and activities that Phil spoke about. Closer into the building is a more manicured landscape, and as you see it from the air, here it is, very simply, the entrance in, the building developed, and a large part of the site undeveloped. It's been a pleasure, Scott.
Okay, thank you very much, David. And I think as we can all appreciate, there isn't a thing in this world that calls itself a casino that looks anything like this. This is really revolutionary. It's unique. There's been a lot of planning and thought that's gone into it. I appreciate all of your help in helping getting us there. And I think this will be genuinely special, and I hope we can do it. I want to talk a little bit about the financial impact of what the casino will bring. Obviously, that's very important as well. As you've heard, we plan to make something in the neighborhood of a $1 billion investment. We think that's appropriate and will get us where we need to go, and a lot of benefit will come from this investment. We feel like we'll create somewhere in the neighborhood of 3,000 jobs. There'll probably be some 2,000 some odd construction jobs that take place before that. We'll have another 3,000 permanent jobs. And the thing that's great, again, about this casino, as I talked in the beginning, is it's all these different businesses under one roof. So while we might have 3,000 jobs, we have over 800 different job types. You know, you have a casino operation, so you have dealers, you have technicians, people that are working with our slot machines, you have hosts, but then you have a big food and beverage operation. You have a big engineering component, people that are maintaining this wonderful building that we have. We have landscaping jobs. We have jobs in finance and casino accounting. And it's a really wonderful place to have great diversity. A lot of times you bring a business into a community, and whether it's a factory or a manufacturer, something like that, they really only have certain types of jobs, and it's not a broad type experience. Here we can offer that. It's something that really is second to none. We're also going to be making significant payments to the community. Right up front, there'll be a community enhancement fee, which will be tens of millions of dollars that we think will help out. We plan to pay what we call a pilot, which is a payment in lieu of tax, somewhere in the neighborhood of $15 to $20 million a year to the community. Obviously, we want to support, provide what we call impact fees to support police and fire, and that could be another $2.5 million a year. And well beyond that is what we spend within our community. So at Foxwoods, we procure over $100 million of goods and services a year. Over 3/4 of that comes locally, from local providers, and we think that'll be the same type of experience here. So we could envision ourselves spending as much as $50 million on local businesses to help support Foxwoods. It's funny, we always talk about a 2-to-1 multiplier. For every job that we create at Foxwoods, we feel like we create another job in the community from vendors that we need to support us. And we always defer to the local provider. In our mind, it's the best case scenario if the community is thriving and prospering, it's growing alongside us, and we have that kind of symbiotic relationship. So we really expect the businesses around us to thrive as hopefully we achieve success. Also very important, we talked about things in the community, social benefits, education. We want to make sure that we're helping the community provide great education, for our citizens. My parents were both school teachers. I grew up understanding the need for quality education. Education means money. So as we look at the schools, what do the schools need? Do they need computers? Do they need new programs? We work directly with schools at Foxwoods. We promote programs within universities and surrounding areas, and we've talked to a few around there. So we hope to provide, funding for those same kind of programs here. Obviously, public safety is critical. That also means dollars. We want to provide actual dollars for police so that they can have their equipment that they need. They can have the stations that they can need. Whatever it is that it takes to make this, again, clean, safe, and fun, we're going to be doing, and we're going to be providing those monies. Obviously, we feel like property values will be enhanced. local charity is very important. You know, at Foxwoods, we spend a lot of money on local charities. Obviously, it's important that we all give. You know, even in tough times, it's important to give. And all through the, you know, you heard about the financial issues that Foxwoods had. We never shied away from our giving, and we've always supported local charities. Very important. And obviously, parks, recreational areas, not only the things that we're talking about doing on site, but also around the communities, whether it's helping you build ball fields or soccer stadiums, places where our youth can get together, congregate, and have a healthy experience, you know, is obviously very, very critical. You know, obviously, you know, we're very anxious, hopefully, to start negotiations on a community host agreement. We actually have one drafted that we're ready to hopefully, you know, start working on soon. But, you know, as we mentioned, we'll have, you know, over $1 billion investment. I think I ran through a lot of these numbers with the $15 to $20 million pilot fee, the community enhancement fee, the impact fees. Also, we envision there'll be things like taxes on meals and hotels and other excise taxes. You know, as we mentioned, we're going to upgrade the water and sewage infrastructure. And we've identified, you know, just in talking to you, a few community needs, like the recreational facilities and the schools and the cultural needs that are, you know, very, very important around here. We want to build all that into a hard, fast agreement so that you'll know what you'll be getting every year, and you can plan for that accordingly. Talked a little bit about jobs. You know, I think we all know what this can bring in terms of jobs, and you know, people are worried about what does that mean. You know, there's a lot of areas that we bring jobs from. You know, in Foxwoods we have, you know, 7,000 workers, so we're talking about a lot, you know, less than there. And even in a smaller town, we have people that come to these areas. A lot of our workers come from this area, you know, so we would envision, you know, they could just transfer over here and have a fully trained staff, you know, day one. So I think we can handle, you know, in addition to promoting, you know, Milford, and again, we'll always defer to the local person. So if there's someone in this town that wants to be a part of what we're doing, we're absolutely going to, you know, look to bring them in. But to the extent that there's needs outside of that, we feel very comfortable that we can satisfy, you know, our job requirements here. So, you know, once more in wrapping, we absolutely believe that we can build, you know, an incredibly luxurious resort that fits this community, that represents its history, represents its culture well, and it can be something that we're all incredibly proud of. You know, and just in closing, I just want to mention, you know, again, this word casino, you know, we think about what is a casino. There are a lot of gaming establishments that exist, you know, right here in our own town. You know, you could go to a local convenience store and it has, you know, a lottery machine, or you can go on a cruise ship and they have, you know, a casino element. No one really thinks of a cruise ship as a casino. You know, churches run bingo. We have a lot of, believe it or not, priests that come to our bingo hall to learn new games and things like that, and it's a wonderful thing. So this thing that we call gambling, it's really, you know, an experience that exists in our community. It's one that can be done in a very appropriate way. And again, it's just a small part of what we're talking about here. We're talking about building a world-class luxury destination resort that Milford could be extremely proud of, and we're really hoping that all of you will let us have the chance to show that to you. So I want to thank everyone for your time. Again, I want to thank the chairman and the selectmen. I want to thank, you know, great Milford High School for letting us use their facility. Go Hawks! See all the red shirts. I'm sure you're all Hawks fans, right? And once again, thank you for your time.
As our eyes grow accustomed to the new lighting, just a couple of things that I want to say. First of all, I want to thank the representatives from Foxwood, Massachusetts, for putting so much time into this presentation. It took some time to create. It looks like they spent a significant amount of time doing that and put some thought into that, and it's certainly going to take this community some time to digest it. But having said that, I also appreciate the respect that this community gave in hearing the presentation. What I'm going to suggest is that for those of you who have sat patiently, the presenters and the members of the audience, I'd like to recommend that we take a 5-minute break just to let people stretch their legs and take a bio break if needed, and we'll resume the meeting in 5 minutes. All right, we're going to attempt to call the meeting back to order now, please. If everyone could please take their seats. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So I just wanted to call everybody's attention to the large number of municipal employees we have here. I'm going to try to not name them by name, but at least go by department and say that I'm very impressed with this town and the time that I know that they've put into, our employees have put into this meeting with the consultants and this particular proposal. We have the planning board here, or members of the planning department. We have members of engineering. We have community development. We have the building inspection department. We have sewer. We have the school department, both elected officials and also the superintendent. I know I'm going to forget people, but we have the assessor's office, and I know we have Fire Chief Toohey and the police chief. And I apologize in advance because there was no way I was going to start that undertaking and not leave somebody out. I'm sure I have. But what it means to me and what it should mean to the community is that we take these things very seriously, and I'm glad the presenters acknowledged the hard work that the municipal employees put in. You heard earlier in one of the presentations our outstanding AA bond rating. That didn't come by accident. These people work very hard to do that. And I know the community pays attention because in its volunteerism through the FinCom and various other ways, they're supportive. So the fact that there are not overrides or debt exclusions is something that we are very proud of, and I'm glad it was acknowledged by the presenters. We have 26 people who would like to speak. I'm going to ask that their questions be brief as reasonably possible, and try to ask that question in less than a minute. It shouldn't be hard to do that when we have questions. Again, it's not an opportunity for speeches, and the rest of the community should know as this process moves forward. I'm estimating, and this is a guess, but we're talked about in casual discussion the possibility of 4 or 5 or more, as many as it takes, community sessions where there's an opportunity to, again, digest this information. This information was put together by some serious professionals, and it's not even possible for this community to reflect on what was presented and come up with a lot of questions necessary this evening. You may have some in mind, and that's okay, but there may be many, many more, and I know that that's what our consultants are prepared for, and I'm certain that Foxwoods is prepared for that as well. So those forums we're going to make available. They have not been scheduled yet, but we're also considering to the extent that we can this summer utilize this same space, because we expect it would be hot, and that we expect it to be well attended. If the presenters or the consultants have any recommendations for this first trial and next meetings, we'd be certainly happy to hear that, as well as those from community members in terms of the forum. I appreciate you being patient. I'm going to read from the list in the order that which people signed up, and we'll ask that those people come up to the microphone, provide their name and address, and any affiliation, if they're representing a business in town, that business affiliation. There's a question by Attorney Murray. If we were going to ask questions, I can go to the board now. If that's the board, I'll leave it to the board to decide. Would you like to speak now and ask any questions? Okay, the members of the board would like to ask some questions of the presenters. We'll go to those now. We'll go to the senior member, Mr. DeBartolome's first.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank the officials from Foxwood On the 8th, on April 8th, it was a rather difficult meeting, and a lot had to be done, and we had to, at that time, present our views and concerns, in that going forward, there would really have to be a 180-degree turnaround with information, specifics, detail, and I was quite skeptical at that time, but I think you've made a really good effort to come forward and to present the information, and that's only a beginning. So I thank you for that. Mr. Butera, you don't have to answer. I'm just making these points, and you can write those down. I think it's more important to hear from the residents. You mentioned about the construction. Mr. Perini, I think we all know, as a construction firm, he's a national company located in Framingham. But one of the things that I think is important also is to engage the local contractors. We have a very large construction company in Milford, the Consigli Construction Company. I believe they're also doing some work internationally. So I think it's important as you get into this, as you mentioned, the local vendors and the local everything, is that whether it be the Consigli Construction Company, some of the 4 or 5 other large construction companies that we have in town, that you provide them the opportunity to do work at this facility if it does go forward. So I think that's important, because we're talking about jobs, and it goes all the way down. So hopefully you'll consider that, and you'll have some information for us.
That is very much in our plans. I do agree with that.
I think the schematics, the information that you presented, I think is a good first step. On the traffic, I don't know, on some of the information, I think first of all, it would be nice if we can get a hard copy of all the information that was presented tonight, and also extra copies, so we can present those to the public, and whether it be at the library, the senior center. I think that's the type of the education process that really has to be done.
Yep.
So on the traffic, some of the data on the traffic, it'll be interesting to really get into that. What did you mean by 1%? A couple of 2 or 3 times you mentioned there'd be 25 cars or 30 cars. I don't know about those numbers. The reliability, and I don't mean that any particular way, but I think it's important to that traffic presentation, I think, really has to be augmented, has to be beefed up. I think our officials really need the details, the specifications, how are the results taken, how are the analysis, what type of analysis was done, the hours of the day. When we do a local traffic count, the police chief, the highway surveyor, we put out mechanisms to obtain that. So this is much, much larger exponentially. Yeah. So how is that done? So for me, on the traffic information, I listened, I saw it, but just for myself, I think a lot more has to be done as far as the reliability, the validity of that information. So that's a most important part.
And we will submit a full traffic study. Obviously, in a presentation like this, there's only so much information you can convey effectively, but we will submit a full traffic study as well as work with your consultants to get them comfortable with the estimates.
Okay. So that was on the traffic. On the water, the traffic and water are very large, as you know that. I think we made that very clear on April 8th, 3 months before that, and all the way up to this point. So water is most important. I enjoyed the presenter on that. I believe his name was Sean. I think he did a good job pointing out the things that have to be talked about, the research that was done, some of the reuses. I have spoken with our town engineer this week, and she presented some interesting concepts on, I believe, items that she will present to you tomorrow. And also our retired engineer is involved. So, but on the water, I think it's important to, the water for the residents of Milford is primary, is first. Any development that has to occur, the water is important. So I think then comes the casino issue. So I know a lot of, you talked about irrigation, the cooling towers, how to save money. Also, the water that may be provided by the Milford Water Company. So I think all those things really have to be checked out. We had a great water company for a long time. And then 3 or 4 years ago, some things started to happen. And so I think public opinion, the integrity of the whole process really has to be looked at. So when you offer opinions from the water company, I think those are the items and concerns and things that really have to be checked out. So our people will be ready on that. But you did touch on some things, and I wasn't, like I said, I was impressed with with Sean, his presentation. On the sewer issues, I think you really made some good points on that, helping out the sewer commission. Some of the things that, in the past, we've always tried to help out Hopkinton with lines and sewer and all that. So it would be nice to be able to provide infrastructure to the people, the residents who do not have it. Because for 31 years on this board, I mean, that's been a big issue with a lot of people, and it's very costly, it's tough to do. So anything that could be done in that venue would be going a long way. But once again, specifics, details, the reports, those are the things that have to be turned over so that our consultants and our very proud and dedicated town officials can review all that information. On the architecture, I thought the gentleman did a very nice job. So once again, on the water, the traffic, some of those numbers, I just don't agree with those numbers. I'm a layman, of course, but just looking at knowing the town of Milford, and you really have to know the town of Milford. Okay, so I stress that all the time, and I stress that tonight. You have to know what's going on. You have to talk to Milford people. You have to know the concerns. There are streets in town now where it's very difficult to move, especially from 3 to 6 o'clock. So those are the things you have to know, and the more you know about that, I think it'll better able to make you go on and make those recommendations. Really, I think, Scott, you mentioned a little bit about housing needs, but not much. So what are the housing needs? The percentage of people who will be looking for homes, rent, to be able to rent. So I think that's important to know. I think that is a number that we need. Also, you mentioned a lot of the betterments for the schools and all that. That's great for educational purposes, but we need how many additional students? What will it mean? If you have 100 people coming in and they'll be living here, how many kids will they take? Similar to when we look at a development, how many kids? The more kids, the more costly, and the revenue doesn't make up for that when we're just looking at on the town side. So information on housing, what type of housing, what's going to be needed, education. The additional students, the superintendent is right here, so that's most important. And as you know, when you bring in students, that costs money. It's about $6,000 or $7,000. And then if you have all the other benefits that are needed, it's certainly a cost. So I mean, you really have to delve into those areas also. The chairman mentioned that there would probably be 4 or 5 forums, no question about it. That definitely will be needed. 4 or 5 forums going into the neighborhoods, the actual neighborhoods throughout town, talking to people. We have a lot of social clubs, the Italian Vets, the Hoboken, the Portuguese Club, the Fagiano Club, okay? So there should be forums at those locations in the neighborhoods so people, the residents, can come. A lot of times, a lot of people called and said, I'm afraid to come. There's a lot of people. I'd like to see something done where we're talking about 100, 150 people. So I think as the education process, that is very, very important.
Yeah, we agree, and we plan to do that and look forward to those events.
I know you've opened up the store, and that's good. I know you have some pamphlets, you put some things in the Milford Daily News, and also the Town Crier. You're working very hard with the local WMRC at Thompson. That's important because that's where people start off in the morning, is listening to Ed Thompson. And, you know, he loves to get into information, he loves to present information, he loves to have accurate information. So those things should continue.
Yep.
But as the chairman said, and I'll give some ideas to Attorney Villani this week, when the Enron power plant came into town, much smaller, but same type of concerns, same types of issues, and we really had a textbook style of bringing the information to the residents when they had questions, and to our town officials. Because if the town officials say it's a no-go, it's a no-go. And if the residents can't have their questions answered, that's a bad situation.
Understood.
In that particular situation, whenever we asked the Enron officials to acquire information, to get us information, to work with the town officials, and regardless of how many questions, detail, they did it, and that's what we expect from you. So, you know, I want to thank you again for coming in, the presentation. You certainly have gone a long way, but it's only a beginning. You know, we're beginning to climb a mountain, and there's a lot more that has to be done. But a couple of things, just to reiterate once again, summarizes that the traffic engineer, his presentation, I question a lot of that information. And on the water company, I think you really have to work closely with our officials and all that, and really ascertaining what can be done, what can't be done. We don't want to penalize the people of Milford with water. And most times we're in level 3. We're presently in level 3, which means you can't water after 7 in the morning and after 5. And so there has to be much more information. So anything you said tonight, please back it up with detailed information, specifics, so that our engineers, our consultants, our town officials will have that. And, you know, they'll definitely, you know, put you through a ringer in ascertaining the correct information. And the only thing I ask, again, is that you must work with the town officials, you must work with the town, you must be totally transparent, and if something has to be mitigated, then it has to be mitigated. Because if it doesn't get mitigated, then I think that would hurt the overall project, and it probably would not be good for Milford. So I thank you again, I look forward to working with you, and I thank you for the information that you presented tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, and I think that those will be good exercises. Obviously, you know, as I've said from the start, those issues are as important to us as they are to the community. So working through all those things, and, you know, 2 heads are always better than one. We'll work with your, you know, officials and your consultants, and together, you know, hopefully we'll find the right solutions. But we will, you know, give you our word. We'll be entirely transparent. And if there are issues that need to be discussed, they'll be discussed. And if they can be worked out, great. And if for whatever reason we come to an impasse, you know, we'll all just, you know, admit that and move on. But we look forward to that process, and we will commit ourselves to that.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dino. Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Butera and your staff, let me just commend all of you for the work that's been done since our April 8th meeting. Clearly, I think the message was heard, and you've made great strides towards fleshing out this proposal. I think tonight's format makes it a little bit difficult to ask some of the pointed questions that were raised, at least to me, during the various aspects of your proposal, which at this point I think was quite in depth. I guess I would say that in terms of an overall thought process, I think you're on the right track, minimizing the actual development, trying to keep the development closest to the highway, away from residents. The way I see this process, I mean, obviously we're not deciding tonight whether or not Milford wants a casino. The question to me is whether or not this project is feasible enough to enter into a community host agreement and then subsequently place it before a town vote. Many of the items that I saw are not guarantees. They're hopeful, they're proposals. Indeed, even your project itself talks about going into phase 2, which raises the question, what factors, what qualifications are going to have to exist for Foxwoods to develop from phase 1 to phase 2? What type of time frame are you looking at? So it's difficult, I think, for me to get into the particulars that I would like to. I guess the best thing I can do is probably just toss out a laundry list of some of the questions and concerns that I have, and then your team, your consultants can work with our consultants to try to provide the detail that we can then look at. The traffic, I guess, is probably the most troubling aspect to me of this particular project. My gut instinct is that you're on the right track in the sense that the majority of vehicles will be coming from 495, but obviously I want to see the traffic studies. I want to see the assumptions that are made upon which the conclusions are eventually reached. And I need to get more information on this CD road. I don't understand how that works. Land taking's involved. What's the lane travel that there's going to be? How wide? What kind of turnoff is it going to be? It was difficult on the conceptual plans to really get into those details. I think overall, it's clearly the right track. There has to be that direct access from 495 into the complex. But it does raise a lot of questions to me as to exactly how it's going to work and if it's not going to cause more traffic snarls than it might be designed to prevent. Similarly, I think with the water, which is also a big concern, I understand the concept that there's a permanent number that the water company can reach. But increasing production, how realistic is that? How feasible is it? If so, what's the time frame? What's the kind of investment that needs to be done to that? I understand that you're talking about reducing water usage, which is wonderful. I think that's a great concept. It's going to go a long way, but it's not going to get you over the goal line. And you've got that combination there to try to increase production as well as minimize usage. Again, how feasible is that? Is that something that we as a board ought to feel comfortable in terms of accomplishing so that we could put this before the town with confidence and say, folks, you can vote on this? The sewerage, I think, again, similarly, you're talking about trying to reduce infiltration as a way to get to the numbers that you want to get to. I don't know how successful that is. I don't know how practical that would be. I don't know how far that will take you. Some of the other issues that naturally crop up, I think the transmission lines clearly create a problem on the site. I don't understand how we're going to have the passive recreation going back and forth over that easement unless, I guess, National Grid permits that. So again, I'm very interested to see what the relationship is going to be with National Grid. I'm assuming everything to the east of the easement lines towards Holliston will be simply unused land and just be open for natural vegetation, but I'm not entirely clear on that. The amenities, I think that the concept of tying in the Milford granite is a great one. The minimal type approach to the buildings in terms of height, it would seem to fit into the landscape very, very well. Again, I don't know if that's practical, if that's feasible in terms of what you're trying to accomplish on the site. So I guess what I'm saying is, from an overall broad concept, I'm very encouraged with your proposal, but like anything, the devil's in the details, and I fully anticipate that your consultants will work with our consultants so that we can analyze these kinds of issues and get clearer answers to me to go forward in this process. But I think at this particular time frame, it's encouraging to see the progress that has been made, and I would look forward to further progress, keeping in mind that we have that artificially tight time frame that's been set by the Gaming Commission.
Right. No, we very much appreciate that. Obviously, anything that involves a commitment on our behalf, we would formalize in the community host agreement, and we're anxious to start that process. And obviously, we'll work very closely with your consultants and with Mr. Freilich and the team that he's put together in making sure that all of these details are researched, thoroughly, and that all of those questions are answered to everyone's satisfaction before we move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for the responses. I agree with the comments made by my colleagues on the board, and I don't want to reiterate some of the things associated with traffic and water. What I would suggest to the presenters from the developer's perspective is some greater depth as it relates to the feasibility and assumptions, and some timelines that the experts are allocating for each of the tasks. So if, as an example, envision with respect to water, the very brief timeline associated in the key milestones, so that our experts and subject matter experts from the town standpoint can look at these and see whether they're feasible, whether you've got the right key components as key milestones, and what your assumptions are associated with that. So that, because I also have some concerns as it relates to traffic, and our relationship with the water company is one that's probably known to you by now, is rocky at best over the last few years. And so when I see a slide that tells me we're not in a water shortage, but instead we're in an allocation, reallocation, I'm professionally skeptical. And so that's, I think, where probably a fair amount of the community members might view that as well. I do want to say that it's as fast as we can get a copy of this presentation to people, it would be helpful. We'd like to put it on our website tomorrow, if that's possible.
Yeah, all of that's possible. We're gonna make sure everyone has full access to the presentation. We'll also post it on our website, but we'll make sure that you have however many hard copies and electronic versions you need.
Yeah, we'll let the town administrator work with you, because there are certain, you have a fair amount of slides there. Certain people are going to run into trouble printing all that background and all of that. And so making them available, as Mr. DeBartolome suggested, at various public places would be helpful.
Absolutely.
And also your storefront. To be honest with you, I'm just a little confused on the traffic and the discussion about, I guess, what appears to be a conflict, and you can not resolve it tonight. Again, this is a great opportunity for me to, and the members of the board, to throw things to you and have you come back at another time. But it appears to be a general conflict in the low number of vehicle trips that would happen locally, but yet the high revenue realized from local businesses, and how you do that in 12 trips. So if you could help us with that, that would be helpful. I think there's another piece of it on the presentation. It's not clear to me what's phase 1 and phase 2 by the slides that were presented. So maybe with the breakout of water, sewer, and the different aspects that are going to be addressed there, with those timelines, we would be able to then differentiate clearly what's intended to be phase 1 and phase 2.
Yes.
Not just from the infrastructure standpoint, but also I guess in just about every aspect, we can't tell whether you're planning on doing something in phase 1, phase 2.
Okay.
I just want to, I don't want to be redundant, I just want to reflect on something else. I saw very little, I saw a great deal of effort, let me say that. I saw a great deal of effort, I said that earlier, and we've come a long way since the 8th. But I saw very little as it related to the school department.
Okay.
I'm very concerned about that, and I'd like some aspects to be addressed, especially you may bring in or have the need to bring in to represent your customer base certain needs with unique language requirements. You have those in Foxwoods, and that's if that happens here, there'll be some impact to that, and we'd like to understand that a little bit differently.
All of the employees that we hire at Foxwoods are conversant in English, and obviously that would be the same situation here. If there are, we do have a diverse group of workers. We're very proud of that. We look to enhance diversity of opportunity, but clearly everyone converses in English. Everyone, is a customer representative, and I would envision that'd be the same thing here. And if people have a second language skill for customers of ours that speak a second language, then obviously we look to hire those people. Those are valuable people. But we understand, and we'll get back to you with estimates on those numbers.
Okay, and one of the, just a point of reference, one of the articles that was concerning that I had read was that during the unionization there had to be discussions that were offline in other languages, specifically Mandarin Chinese, that the management had to speak with. Some 800 of the 3,000 workers their primary language was Mandarin. This community is, I ask that because if there's a large population, it may be a subset where the school system would need to know that. This community is ethnically diverse, and so it's not unique to us. We're proud of that heritage, and but there are certain things that may drive certain needs, and we need to understand those.
Yep, I understand.
Beyond that, I don't have any specific concerns. There was one that I asked you the last time. I didn't see it addressed in the presentation. I'd like to see it addressed in short order, and that's specifically related to the finances. The last time you had represented that the restructuring was in order. We want to make sure, part of the thing that I know I have a personal concern with is that as Attorney Murray represented the feasibility, we want to make sure that this is feasible, and we want to make sure that if there's a dance partner here, we have the right one. And so a lot has been written and said about your finances, and my understanding is that restructuring is not closed yet. Is that right?
That restructuring is planned to close on July 1st.
Okay.
So all the negotiations are done. Really, it's a matter of just completing a lot of documentation, and there's a lot of documentation. But there's no more negotiations. There's no more discussions. And the closing is planned for July 1.
Okay, because as an example, you heard tonight, it just happened to be tonight that we were talking about our bond rating. Our bond rating we're very proud of, and it happens to be better than most casinos, so we appreciate that. All right, so what we'll do, and I don't say that to be trite, as a matter of fact, we're proud of it, and we're proud of it for a lot of reasons.
Yeah. No, you should be, and it's very commendable, especially given some of your peer groups. We understand that, but I can tell you that we will be in very good financial condition. We also have ratings on our indebtedness, which we've shared with your advisors. And if there are any questions or concerns about our finances, I'd be perfectly happy to discuss, how we're doing.
Okay.
We are doing very well as a business unit. Like I said, we will have very solid financing, and we have plenty of capacity to make this investment, as well as other things down the road. But we do understand that concern, and we think we can get people very comfortable that that's very much behind us. And relative to our peers, because we've been through it and we're maybe a first mover in restructuring, we think we have a little bit of an advantage on our financing going forward. So, but we do appreciate the concern.
Okay. And part of that reasoning and part of my thought process, just so you're clear, is that there can be equity firms and hedge fund managers and, frankly, administrators and operators of casinos that are going to be involved in this process. But, you know, it is the residents of the community that are taking the most risk.
Yep.
Right? There isn't anybody out there of any of those people I mentioned, other than the community, that have, you know, personal risk involved. Everybody else has somebody else's money, but
Yeah.
this is our community, so you understand that.
I live in Las Vegas, and one of the saddest, yeah. I was going to say, having spent the last few years of my life in Las Vegas and seen quite a few unfinished buildings, I know how detrimental and sad that is, and we wouldn't move forward if we thought there were any risks to that on our side, but clearly we've got to get this community comfortable with that.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate the candor in which you answer, and we're looking forward to the rest of the information that the board members have asked, and also some of the community members will probably seek more information. The first person on the list I'm going to call is Steve Treadle from 9 Ferguson Street, Milford. And which microphone are we using? The same one?
You're right here, yeah.
Can we spin that around? I'm going to guess that they want to face. Yeah. No, no. I'm not sure that that one's working. I'm wondering, we've been using this, and I don't want to take any chances. It probably is, with as good a job as the school system and Superintendent Tremblay did. You can turn and face if you'd like to face them as well.
Okay.
And if you could address me, and then I'll check with the subject matter expert as well. I know I've given you conflicting information, but
I'm the first one up here, so I set the
we're asking you to face backwards while you're facing
Which way do you
forwards,
want
and
me to
we're
face?
okay.
My question and maybe comment is regarding the feeder roads. When you look at the actual physical location of the embankments, the toe of the embankments is right up against the property lines of those homes along Attilio Circle and the end of Ferguson Street. So when you picture what a feeder road would look like when you add it to the side of the 495 roadway, it's going to be right on top of that property line. Major impact to those homes along that area.
Okay.
So
if you, your question, just so I can summarize for them.
Setting the scene that way, the question is there going to be, there needs to be in the host agreement a mitigation that involves sound barriers to protect the privacy of those homes.
Okay, that's a
and
comment.
Again, that's...
I just want to understand what
okay.
your question is.
Will there be?
Okay.
Will there be?
Our consultants have made note of that, and you can also note that part of the casino design is also intended to do some of that with where parking is and whatnot. So
Yeah.
I understand, and it's a concern. It's been a concern of many community members over time that as 495 has grown, we'll take that under advisement, I guess, is the best I can say, Kim and Sid. Okay.
Okay. A related question and a bigger
Steve?
issue. Only one?
Yeah. I thought I set the ground rules up front, and I'm going to
Okay.
ask you to adhere to them just so I can get
I
to the
will.
29 names.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks, Steve.
Next, we have Tim Spino from 15 Wales Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A little levity first, because I want to congratulate the Board of Selectmen for getting the memo to wear the town suit this evening, as you all have the same colors on. And we thank you very much for doing
The
that.
memo went out early.
Mr. Chairman, I wish to thank you for finally offering the residents of the town of Milford an opportunity to provide comments and inputs on an issue that will impact this town forever. I commend you for taking the initiative and allowing us to finally be heard tonight. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, U.S. Supreme Court petition number 12-515, dated October 23, 2012, pertains to the state of Michigan versus Bay Mills Indian Community. This petition relates to an Indian tribe having a tribal state compact with the state of Michigan, allowing the tribe to have some casinos on their reservation. In addition to having some casinos on their reservation, the tribe opened a casino 100 miles off reservation. After failed negotiations, the state of Michigan requested the tribe to close the casino. The tribe informed the state of Michigan that not only will they not close this casino, but they also informed the state it no longer had authority over this parcel of land. The tribe claimed sovereign immunity for this parcel of land. Mr. Chairman, I understand our consulting counsel from Chicago has lobbied for Indian organizations. We do not know the specific topics which they lobbied for or against.
Mr. Spino, I'm going to
The
ask you to
question
get
is
to the
right
question.
after- The question is coming right after this. And we do not know how much they may have been or may not have been paid. I wish to ask if consulting counsel has made the Board of Selectmen aware of the potential issues and concerns that may arise if, at a future date, the Mashantucket Pequot tribe were to decide to purchase the land that the Casino here in Milford is located on.
I'll answer for the benefit of this board. This board has not had discussions specific to that topic, and nor has the board talked about the equity investors. We've recently received a memo as to the equity investors, and we can make that available publicly. But it hasn't looked forward in any future discussion should the Indian tribe want to gain control or purchase a larger stake. It has not.
Mr. Chairman, I maybe can shed some light. The Mashantucket tribe, its sovereign nation, only applies to its reservation in Connecticut. If in fact the Mashantucket tribe did purchase that land, it would be non-reservation land. It would be subject to, federal, state, and local laws as they exist today. In many major instances, a tribe will waive its sovereign immunity. We certainly have with regard to our financing. So it could never be a tribal-owned, it could never be a facility that was subject to sovereign immunity by a tribe.
Okay, I'm going to try to avoid the back and forth that has all the potential here. What I'll have is I'll have Mr. Spino finish his question, and then we'll end that there. What I don't want to do is go back and forth, but if you could have just addressed me.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not going to go back and forth, but it is obvious the state of Michigan would disagree with that statement.
Okay. And we will look at that particular case to see if it has any relevance here. Thank you. Next, we have Lloyd Curry, 23 Simmons Drive, Milford. Simon, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, it's no secret that Foxwood Resort Casino is heavily in debt and will likely incur additional debt with such a project. Extracting financial data through public sources is difficult.
I'm not sure everyone could hear. You may want to speak closer to the mic.
Sorry. Extracting financial data through public sources is difficult. Does Foxwoods have plans to release publicly its audited financial statements? If so, when? If not, why not?
Okay, you've asked a question of Foxwoods. Mr. Butera, if you would, is the release of financial documents imminent? And it relates to some of the questions I've had as well.
Yeah. Well, one, we're not a public company, so as of today, we don't file as a public company. But with our restructuring as of July 1, we will be reporting as though we were a public company. We will be reporting quarterly financial data as well as annual financial data. We'll be hosting investor calls, and we'll be running ourselves as though we were a public company. So up until now, because we have certain indebtedness that does trade, and because there are some, and it's a little bit technical, but because there are some groups that are restricted and do get private information and cannot trade, and others that don't receive private information and can trade, we have to honor that. So we do have websites where all of our, if someone's willing to sign what we call a confidentiality agreement, we do have websites where all of our financial data is readily available if somebody's willing to sign a confidentiality agreement. But as of July 1, everyone will be able to see our finances on a public basis.
Okay,
So
that's helpful.
certainly in working with your advisors, and they're willing to be subject to confidentiality, all elements of our financing are available to anybody who'd like to see.
Yeah, and I'm going to explore that further. I'm going to stop here because we allowed you to ask the question that you wanted to ask. I do want to get to others. But the extent to which confidentiality applies, I want to talk with council at a later date, because there's obviously the need and transparency required in municipal government that we have to meet. So
I understand.
I can see competing interests there, for lack of a better term. Okay. Thank you very much.
Could they provide that site where that information's at?
Excuse me?
That disclosure site for that information?
Sure. I guess I'll ask you to go over there and speak with a representative on where you could get that website.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Why don't we just...
And by the way, look at, one of the things I want to say, this is hard, right? People coming up asking difficult questions in front of their community. I just want to remind you, it's your community. It's your auditorium, and we're here as your representatives. So please, if you have your questions, ask them. I can see folks are a little nervous. I understand that. This is public speaking. But just remember, it's for the most part, your community here, and we'll try to be supportive as you ask those questions and help. The next person on the list is Erlen Johnson from 50 Congress Street, Milford, Mass. Thank you, and you did that swiftly. Thank you.
Thank you. I actually thought I was signing up for a door prize. I do have a question. I have a number of people asked me to come tonight to report back to them. Rick, you mentioned something about a website earlier, that the information is going to be put on a website so we can actually go to it.
Yeah, let me just elaborate on that. Mr. Villani has been very helpful in working with our consultants to make sure that a website is available. Our intent and our responsibility, frankly, is to make everything as transparent as possible and provide that information to you. Now, we could wait for public disclosure requests, or we can just provide everything that we have every time we have a meeting. It's available for recording, and every piece of document that we see, it's our intent to provide that. If there's something that's not on that website that should be available tomorrow, please let us know, and we'll try to make it available so you don't have to make specific requests as you normally would.
I saw bullet points, a great presentation. I don't know, I don't have a sense, and I'm new because I'm new to this community, as you know, and I don't know what the timeline is from shovel ready, or whatever that term is. Is somebody got that somewhere?
Right. And I think, I appreciate your question. Thank you. Okay. Bruins are winning.
That's good news.
That timeline question was one of the ones I had raised earlier, so I think it's addressed there, and I think you'll have a copy of that shortly. Let me say it that way. As soon as the developers can turn that around. We're going to go to the next person. It's Michael Tim from 38 Field Pond Road, Milford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for providing this very important forum. It's very well attended, and you're to be commended for putting it out that way.
Thank you.
Please bear with me while I frame my question. We need to connect some dots. Mr. Butera is president of Foxwoods.
Yeah, just closer to the mic. Yeah.
Foxwoods, Massachusetts is controlled by the Mashantucket Pequot Nation. The nation's tribal council, as the governing body of the tribe, which is a sovereign nation, is free to appoint anybody they choose to tribal offices. It's the tribal council that we must be concerned about. The following information came from the New London newspaper, The Day. The Tribal Council had appointed Antonio Beltran as their chief of staff, in charge of, among other things, its police department. Beltran has a substantial criminal history, drunken driving, speeding, 2 hit-and-run accidents, convicted of a stabbing that occurred after he said he wanted to, quote, kill a white boy. That attack left the victim paralyzed in a wheelchair. After his release from prison, another stabbing in a bar fight. Michael Thomas, former chairman,
Mr. Tim,
brother.
I need you to get to your question. I do
Okay.
appreciate the fact that
You
there's
get
some
where I'm going
concerns.
with this. Well, I'm confident that no responsible corporation in the United States would employ or defend people of the character and ethics of Mr. Beltran and Mr. Thomas. My question, Mr. Chairman, is why should Milford enter into an agreement to do business with such an organization?
Okay. I'm going to defer to Mr. Butchara.
Well, one, I would like to say that Foxwoods, just to set the record straight, is one of several owners, you know, of FCX, and Crossroads team is also, you know, a large owner. But you know, I've worked for the tribe for almost 3 years now. It is a very upstanding group. I think we can all, you know, and I don't want to get into the specifics of what was mentioned because, you know, some of that's, you know, from books that have been written, and, you know, things happen. But, you know, I can tell you that the tribe that exists, I mean, things happen in terms of what people write. It's not always true. And what I will say is my experience with the tribe has been they're very upstanding people. They care about their community. They contribute heavily to charities and local events. And I genuinely feel that, you know, you can pick out a few isolated incidents from any community, but by and large, this community has done great things. We have representatives that coexist with our community. Mr. Tony Sheridan's here with us today, runs the Chamber of Commerce in Eastern Connecticut. If someone would like to talk to him about his experience in dealing with the tribe over the many years, I'm sure that would shed some light. But I can tell you we're, you know, 100% upstanding group, and I'm very proud to work for that tribe. And you know, again, we can't look at a few sensationalized, isolated incidents and hold that against the whole tribe.
Okay, thank you. Ann Walton from 1 Carp Road.
I'd just like to say that I found it rather interesting that we don't need to worry about crime in Milford going up, but the casino people feel that they need a substation for the police department right on their premises. The proposed casino will undoubtedly bring new businesses to Milford, as it has to the southeastern part of Connecticut, where there are 2 casinos and numerous businesses, some of which offer discreet escort services, an obvious front to prostitution. To name a couple, there's the Ledyard Discreet Escort Service and escortsinledyard.com. They promise to fulfill their customers' wildest fantasies. My question to the representatives of Foxwoods and the Board of Selectmen is this: how do you propose to measure and mitigate the impact on the quality of life of Milford residents, who will likely see a rise in prostitution and related illegal activities once the casino is in full operation?
I'm going to give you a short answer because the board has not discussed those specific concerns, but the short answer is that we'll be working with our consultants to address those specific concerns. Those will be part of our discussions. And anything else that public safety and specifically the police chief brings to our attention that needs to be discussed. Your point's well taken, though, and I don't want to just brush over it casually. The mitigation associated with police and public safety is there because there's something to mitigate. And so we'll work with the police chief to determine what exactly that is and the extent to which that will cost the community, could cost the community additional dollars in policing, fire. There's a whole host of things both chiefs will be working with us on so that we can better understand that, and I'm sure benchmarks from other communities are going to be part of that process. But thank you for your question. The next question we have is from Barbara Morganelli from Di Vittorio Drive, Milford.
My concern is pretty much the same as many people here today. Can't hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Several years ago, Milford denied a water park proposal on Cedar Street because it was going to be negatively impacting the quality of life. Since I've been here all my life, I remember one of those many things. My concern is the same for the casino. One of the things that I would like to dispute with Scott Butera on I happen to be a realtor who's saying that the residential homes are going to increase in value. If that is true, then why in the city of Norwich, Connecticut, are they foreclosing on as many as 25 homes per month? I guess that's it.
Thank you, and I appreciate that the question. That's one of the things that we'll also be talking with our consultants. You know, I don't want to keep answering that. We'll be talking with our consultants. We owe you these responses as a board, and I know that the questions are being recorded as a matter of record. I'll ask that we make special note to the types of questions that are asked, and specifically property values, crime, and those types of things, so that we can at least get back to the presenter or the person who asked the question and try to make those answers available publicly. And without jumping the gun, I can envision a frequently asked question so that a list of things, and I'm sure that you've done that before, and we can at least address these that are known questions. Okay. But thank you again. Next question is from Rob Mitchell of 4 Craft Road, Milford.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
First, I'd like to commend Selectman Murray for the letter that you wrote to the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. It may not have been the only reason for them extending the deadline, but it was one of the reasons. And I think we all saw tonight that there are a number of questions that this project would not be able to answer in a short timeline as it was originally proposed. Having said that, what I'd like to do is make sure that we don't only get the puppy dogs and roses presentation up here by the casino, but that we also get a presentation by our consultants that give both the pros and the cons to this group, as opposed to just having the people of Milford come up here and ask the tough questions. I'd much prefer to have the negatives given. Just one example, and it's to beat a dead horse. I had this prepared, so I'm sorry, it's all scratched up. The 3,000 jobs that we're going to be getting both during construction and during the normal working environment. 3,000 people coming through the town of Milford on Route 16 is not 18 cars in an hour. And if it's not 3,000 people from Milford, then it's not Milford jobs, 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 as all the signs say out front. So again, my question was, are they having their cake and eating it too with the 3,000 jobs and the no traffic concerns? But I'm going to defer that question because I only have one, and ask you to say what the schedule is for the consultants to come up here and make their presentations.
So this board has not developed a schedule specifically with a date that I can give you this evening. And part of that, the reasoning for that is, we were highly dependent upon the presentation we received tonight. It wasn't clear what and when that presentation was going to be made, and we weren't sure, frankly, whether we were all on the same sheet of music as to the types of content that it was going to provide or should provide. What I view here is a thoughtful presentation made by the proposed developer. You ask a great question, and that is, when will this presentation and all of the detail we've subsequently asked be churned through our system such that we can aggregate it and present it back? My intention is to have the information, once it's churned through our system, and the subject matter experts that work for the town and the consultants work together to then have that information presented back to the board via the consultants. We can, I guess, speculate on that time frame, but just the caution I have is, since April 8th, or sometime prior to that, one would hope prior to that, there have been some discussions going on with entities of this developer's group, let me say it that way, and that it's taken some time to put that together and get here tonight to where we are. It's going to take some time for us to digest it as well. We have consultants. They're going to help us with that process. But a lot of smart people from the developer's standpoint with a lot of skills put that together and had to look through a lot of information and assumptions to get to where we are tonight. We're going to need that time, and I'm going to tell you it may take as long as they took to present it. I don't mean this evening, since the 8th of April to get to this point. So it may take a month for us to put that together. But your point is well taken. We owe that to the community. You need to hear what our consultants have worked out with our department heads. And I'm going to guess there's going to be some back and forth as to how numbers were arrived at and some of the assumptions put into that. They did what they needed to do in terms of the presentation. There's an awful lot of engineering study behind it. That's going to need to go to our developers and our department heads. And I'm sure there are going to be questions. It'll take some time. But we're not on so fixed a timeline that we don't have the time to ask that. We've repeatedly asked that of our consultants, and we're assured that once this presentation and the engineering information came through, that we would be able to review it and spend the time on it that we needed. I just don't have the date and time. And I know I owe that to you, and we'll be presenting that as a board when that's going to happen, and we'll be communicating that out to the community. Thank you for your question, though. The next question, it's written in cursive, so I'm going to do the best I can. It looks like the last name. Oh, okay, number 10. Does anybody have number 10? Come on down, number 10. For the benefit of everybody there, this is Joe Constantino.
Right. I thought you'd recognize it there.
I do. How are you doing?
I want to thank you, gentlemen, for not doing what was supposed to have been done earlier. It isn't that I'm against casinos. I don't think it belongs in Milford. I'm 2 miles from it. We have the superintendent of schools here, which isn't fair to the children of the town. That's another thing. If your people want to gamble, put it out somewhere far away. We don't need it in Milford. And
Okay,
that's how I feel. That's my opinion.
Do you have a question?
My question is, why didn't you, as the chairman, come out, either one of you say, we don't need it in Milford? That's my question to the three of you.
The next presenter I'll go to is Margaret Knowlton of 14 Chestnut Street. The question was one that 3 independent members who are elected have an opportunity to be asked and answered any time they'd like to in their community. The other 2 members have been very clear that they needed more information prior to making any decisions. I've made my decision. I've taken some time to do that. I think people are clear about my position, so I'm going to go on and move on now. Thank you. Ms. Knowlton. No, one question, please. We have a lot of folks to get to.
I apologize for my wrong shirt tonight, but I've been on the run all day, so I have my fashion shirt, not my political shirt on. My question, I don't believe has been dealt with yet.
Okay.
And I'm very concerned with health, and particularly for the children. I've spent my entire life with the children of Milford. The air quality with all this pollution coming in, and just as a little background, and it's a very lengthy 100 and some odd pages, but in Arlington, Virginia, they stopped an exit being built because there was going to be so much pollution put into the environment of Arlington by the backups that would occur, specifically nitrogen dioxides and particulate matter, and those are the things that concern me. I don't know how many people have COPD in this town. I'm very healthy and go to the gym frequently, as I see Attorney Murray all the time. But a lot of people have health issues, pulmonary issues. Children have...
So your question is, I just want to make sure.
Is there going to be an air study? Because I have seen nothing about that.
No, it's a great question, and
Air
stay there for a
quality.
moment just to make sure I capture it correctly. So environmental engineers, engineers in general, are understanding of the question you're asking, but I want to make sure I rephrase it. With respect to any traffic, with respect to bus traffic that may be a result, there's a certain aspect of environmental impact with any project. And whether it's people building a construction site that have dust or buses, so I understand the nature of it. And I'm not going to ask the developers this evening to provide that answer, but it's a great question, and we need to understand how the different environmental concerns have been or will be addressed.
Well, the building dust is temporary, and it passes.
Well, no, it's
But
significant. I mean, there will be large trucks traveling that are diesel-powered and have significant
Oh, yeah, well,
emissions.
that's
There are
bad.
buses.
And
then,
buses are bad. And
then-
all the senior centers send people in buses.
So vehicle trips have a certain environmental impact. Construction has an environmental impact. The building will change its environmental impact from the site that it is today to what it will be. And what we'll do is we'll give the engineers an opportunity to answer that question and come back and provide that to our consultants, because it's not...
If you can't breathe, a whole bucket of money isn't going to help you.
Right,
know?
right. Okay, the next speaker we're going to hear from is Teresa Forrest. Is Teresa still here? That's number 13. I'm sorry, I can't see everyone in the audience because of the lighting. All right, we've tried that name. Somebody may have had to leave because of the late hour. If she does come back, we'll certainly get to her. Tom Ross from 3 Craft Road is next, number 14. I'm sorry, I may have mispronounced your name. I look now.
Russ.
Russ.
Russ, Tom Russ, 3 Craft Road.
And I apologize.
First of all, I'd like to thank the Board of Selectmen, Chairman Buckley, for this opportunity. It means you're looking out for us. Foxwood Milford has offered an excellent presentation, I thought. However, one of the things I noted is in so many other aerial views, I could see my house. So that gives rise to a lot of serious questions. As evidenced by the folks here, the good folks from Local 2121. Foxwoods has at their disposal a group of dedicated professional dealers that are expressing great interest and dedication to the operation. My question to the Foxwoods folks is, why are these folks so long without a negotiated contract? And does that kind of attitude towards their frontline workers reflect on how they're going to treat us as a host community in the future and the out years? Thank you.
Thank you. I'll direct that to the Foxwoods folks. Thank you.
Sure. We have three major union groups that we work with. We have good relationships, I think, with all of them. We're in the process of a negotiation with the United Auto Workers. I've always had a good relationship with that organization. I think it's a fantastic organization. They've done a lot to help this country along in the time of need. I have great respect for the leadership there. I've been involved in other instances and other jobs that I've worked in and always come to a very successful outcome, and I'm very confident it'll be the same situation here, and we're in negotiations and we'll work something out hopefully very shortly. But clearly our team members are incredibly important. They're our best asset. I think we provide some of the finest wages and health care plans of any employer I've been associated with, and we're committed to doing that. And like anything else, there are negotiations and you work through them, and I'm very comfortable that we'll come to a conclusion in the short term. So it's nothing that is out of the ordinary. We feel very strongly and care very deeply for all of our team members, and clearly our union team members are very important to us.
Okay, thank you. I'll go on to the next one, who asked a question, James Flanagan, 8 Whispering Pine Road or Drive. And that's number 15 of 26, just to give you an idea of progress. It does look like we're going to meet our timeline. I would have had to call a hard stop at about 11 just so we could get to executive session. We are going to get to each of the speakers, and I appreciate their consideration for the speakers behind them because they're being short.
Thank you. I'll be quick as well. Like the prior speaker, my house is in many of those site plans as well, and I'm sure you've all seen where Whispering Pine Drive is. And so I was flabbergasted by the traffic presentation. I mean, I may have been skeptical of the numbers, and we've already addressed that. We've asked for more information about that. But it seemed to ignore the fact that 495 is already at peak capacity during commuter hours, or when there's a concert at the Tweeter Center, or a playoff game at Gillette. And so my question is really related to the fact that it doesn't appear that anybody's really driven these roads and seen what Main Street is like, and trying to get through the traffic. So when they did the traffic counts, they proposed putting, the traffic analysis, they proposed putting in an exit ramp onto 16, but there wasn't any mitigation talked about. They did say numbers, but my question is, aren't there going to be any mitigation measures, or is it just going to be, well, there's only a few cars there, so that's it?
That's a good question. So I'll let one of the members of the Foxwood team talk specifically to the mitigation. I think our point has been driven home. To your point about our being skeptical about some of the numbers, but I will let them talk about any. They did talk about mitigation for sewer, water, and we didn't see anything as it related to our Main Street. So I understand the question.
We'll need the answer later, not tonight.
Well, I don't know if there's something planned and we just didn't see it on the slides, and if there isn't, we can let them take it back.
Yeah, because I'm probably not going to get a job at the casino. I need to get to my job, so I need to get to and from work.
All right. Thank you. So skepticism about the numbers aside, is there any, I don't mean to make that small, the board has raised it, so we'll talk about that further, but is there anything that may have been omitted from the slides or has greater detail, not with respect to the numbers, but any potential mitigation on Route 16 through Main Street?
Yeah, first I'd like to say is that we've spent most of our time coming up with solutions and working with the regulators and the federal agencies to try and come up with a workable solution. So our mitigation will be a function of what that eventual approved solution is, but that's absolutely going to be a critical component. Right now, we haven't fleshed out the approved solution enough to determine what the mitigation requirements are.
Okay.
The other thing I'll just say real quick is, we were surprised by some things too. Sometimes when you look at a situation and you kind of take a gut check, it tells you one thing, and then when you go in and analyze the numbers, it tells you another. So there were some things, that surprised us as well. But everything that we did was based on, our study, our research, and our analytics, and we'll obviously share that with your consultants so we can swap notes.
Sure.
And we all want the same thing here. We all want there to be ease of traffic and and things like that. So, again, this is an exercise that we embrace, and, we want to work with your team to come up with these solutions together.
Okay, thank you. So that was just some information that you don't yet have available, and your point's well taken with respect to that we all need the traffic to flow. When that information is available, do you have a sense of when that information will be available from the DEP in terms of traffic study and mitigation needs?
We'll have to have it included as part of our impact analysis, probably within the next month, but even then it will be part of an approved solution with Federal Highway and with Mass DOT. Okay, so I guess what that's telling me, if I do some quick math, is that we're not going to be in a place where we're able to discuss mitigation until we have those numbers. We will absolutely have several mitigation measures that will be discussed and will be put forward, but the complete package of mitigation will not be fleshed out until the eventual solution is achieved. So until we have a final design, we can't identify all the mitigation measures, but I can tell you already in our discussion with Federal Highway, we've already discussed sound mitigation and the requirement for it, so that's one of the things that has been discussed already, but that full menu of mitigation won't be available until the design's already complete.
Okay.
Most of the mitigation will be identified, but all of the mitigation won't.
And suffice it to say, anything that we do have will be made available to your consultants, and we'll work together, so we will not withhold any degree of information whatsoever.
Okay. The next person on the list is number 16, Salazar Rogue, 15 South Central Street, Milford. And I apologize if I didn't do your name justice.
It was perfect pronunciation.
Thank you.
The question that I had was what types of jobs the casino would be bringing to town, and I got my answer from the presentation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Next question is Zachary Burnham from 14 Leonard Street, Milford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody hear me? Okay. A quote from the open letter sent to Milford residents a little while ago. We currently project that the Milford Resort Complex will generate approximately 3,000 full and part-time jobs, all with a clear preference for hiring from the local communities. It seems to me one of the main motivating factors for Milford when considering allowing this project to go forward is the prospect of jobs for local residents, the other being revenue brought into the city, or into the town, rather. This is a difficult thing to verify after the deal is done and the project is built. The inherent confidentiality and the natural fungibility of labor, especially with regards to hiring practices, makes it hard to get a clear idea of the truth of the matter. I've heard reports that are fairly disturbing to me that casinos have imported workers on 6 or 9 month work visas, have housed them and paid them minimum wage, and those are jobs that could be going to local residents and are not.
Mr. Burnham, I'll have to ask you, as I did the other speakers, if there's a question here.
Sir, yes, sir. Okay. How do the people and the elected officials of Milford hold Foxwoods, Massachusetts objectively accountable for holding up that end of the deal? And if we determine that there has not been a tangible good faith commitment to local hiring, what are the financial consequences for the casino?
Okay. It's a great question. I appreciate you getting to it. At the end of the day, it will take the host agreement, the host community agreement, to bind, to the extent possible, the developer to any commitments made. You know, realizing, of course, that future agreements are dependent upon anticipated future revenues. We also will do our best to make sure that we bind we want to say airtight agreements. And it's a great phrase, but the fact of the matter is airtight agreements are always subject to court reviews and a host of other things that could pop up. But we will do our best. And ultimately, what it's going to come down to at the end of the day is it's going to come down to an agreement that if we can get this far, because I'm just concerned about some dates that were given to me, if we can get this far, there'll be a host agreement put in front of the community. Before the community can vote on it, you'll have to make your assurance that that's airtight enough, and then make an informed decision based on that. But I think it's this board whose intention is to negotiate in good faith to present anything provided we can get there. So,
My suggestion to the board is that include hard numbers and hard dollar amounts.
sure. Thank you very much. Next person is Maria Valencia on 7 Bear Hill Road, number 18, or Valenka. I've heard it pronounced a lot of different ways, Maria. That's why I wanted to say it.
Valencia. Well, before I ask my question, I have to say I hear so many worries, and I think a lot of people make the headaches for themselves. But my question is, why are residents of other towns using Milford water, Milford sewage, Milford roads, Milford shopping, and Milford hospital, and other Milford facilities? And then some are trying to keep the casino to come to Milford. I asked the Board of Selectmen, yes, we need jobs and we need help in our town. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. You know, I think the board has done everything reasonable possible this evening as an example to make sure that we hear from Milford residents. The fact that we provide sewer and have different agreements with other towns is in part the nature of how communities work together, but also one can't lose sight of the fact that some of those facilities were federally built as well. So there's federal funds associated with some of those. And to completely shut off and put a wall around the community is not practical, not possible, and not something we want to do either. We respect our neighbors, but in this forum, the way the Gaming Commission has established the rules, it is Milford residents that we need to hear from, and surrounding communities who need to work through their own local government and with the developer to set up their own surrounding community agreement. The next person is Diane Andes from 58 Walden Way.
Thank you for having the forum
good evening.
tonight. Close enough?
A little higher, I think it'll help.
Thank you. We heard a lot tonight about the concerns, the traffic. We got a lot of answers, things answered. I want to ask the question, with this increase of flow, people, numbers, employees, 3-shift change, whatever it will be, buses, coming to this commercial facility who is out for profit, and their income at someone's expense, who's ever buying or enjoying their meal, their evening, their gambling. We who live in Milford and saw ourselves on the map, the flow traffic at 85, 16, we all go to work, we go one direction or another, we shop in Milford, we might shop in Bellingham, Franklin, we hop on 495. We go to Framingham, we go to Marlboro. So my question with this flow, influx, weekends when we're off and we want to go somewhere, even across town to Milford, wouldn't there be an increase in all this 24/7 at casino patrons of OUIs when you get free or discounted liquor being consumed at any time of day. We already have some of that on our roads already, and wouldn't, because the state controls the casino liquor licenses, what recourse will the town have if we need to confront a rising occurrence of drunken driving?
That's a great question, and that's one where, through the course of this mitigation, we're going to need to work out. It's a thoughtful question, and I appreciate, as all the questions have been, and it's serious. The fact that if there's a potential for drivers leaving any facility and over the legal limit, the risk they place community members in and our family members in is serious. We'll be looking at that. And frankly, there isn't a dollar that was enough up there on the board that would mitigate a serious risk and increase there. So we'll be looking at it hard. And we'll be working with our consultants on that. Thank you. The next question is from Ron Cavalier, 9 Wildwood Drive, Milford. Okay, that's Ron Cavalier, that's number 20. May have stepped out for a minute, so what I'll do in the interest of time is go around and go to the next person on the list, Kim Smith from 5 Ferguson Street, Milford.
A little bit shorter for me. I live east of 495, and I'm very concerned about the impact, if this were to go through, of all the construction. I'm picturing really large construction equipment. I'm picturing lots of mess and lots of delays. I'm imagining I will have a really hard time even getting out of my street. I actually live, when I say east of 495, I mean east of 495. And I'm imagining that new CD road, it goes right by my driveway, and we could probably high-five everybody that goes by. And my son is going to be, he lives to play street hockey in our driveway. And I'm worried about the impact of that construction directly on the safety of my house, my family, and then just the impact to to Route 16 and 109 and those roads with all that equipment. And just wondering what plans would be made for that.
Okay. The presentation you saw this evening, this is the first that we've seen it, and I know people may be surprised at that, but the Board of Selectmen haven't seen the presentation. And I'm not saying that to be critical, because I'm not. They had to decide on how and when they delivered this. The Board of Selectmen seeing it with the community, frankly, in my mind, is a good idea. But that question as it relates to the CD or the interchange and its proximity to existing residential homes is one that's been asked. It's a good question. And I know that you're concerned about it. And I would tell you this board is concerned about it too. This community, this board, has never been insensitive as developments progress as to the impact it may have on a limited number of people. I've never seen town meeting insensitive to impacts that may occur for building and whatnot. So we appreciate your concern, and you're sharing that with us. We'll go find out what that means to you. Right now we have the high-level drawings as you saw, but we appreciate you sharing that concern.
Thank you.
We will get back to you. Chet I'm going to have a hard time, so I'll say the number 22, from 52 Mount Pleasant Street. Okay, Chet may have to step out. If he comes back, we'll get to him. Jeff Howard of 23 Zane Circle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
If I suspend my skepticism just a moment at Mr. Butera's statements about the, If I suspend my skepticism for a moment about Mr. Butera's comments about the expectation of property values rising throughout the town of Milford, on September 8th, Mr. Butera publicly acknowledged what other research has documented, that the homes within close proximity to a casino are likely to drop and potentially drop quite substantially, some reports saying 25% or more. The question that I have is, as the owner of one of the roughly 100 homes in Milford that are directly within the affected area in close proximity, will Foxwoods be directly compensating those residents for any drop in property values, or are we merely collateral damage? And just as a, thank you. And just as a related point, the designs did a very good job of documenting how the casino buildings will be 2,400 feet away from the homes on the north side of 16. What they failed to mention is that the exit onto Route 16 is 265 feet from a road that has 70 homes on it. Thank you.
Okay, what I'll ask as a result of that is there's clearly some homes that are closer than others, and while they're, certainly there needs to be discussion about how uniquely those homes are impacted versus communities or homes in the community that are saved by the hospital. So we'll make that note, and we'll work with our consultants to see what unique conditions exist within close proximity to the development versus those that are further away. And again, I've said it before, this board and the town is also sensitive to those issues. We don't say that because we don't live there, we don't need to worry about it. We understand your concern. The next person on the list is Johnny Walker, from 9 Bodio Circle. It's not the first time you've heard that, Mr. Walker, right? Welcome.
I'd just like to say hi to my neighbors. This is probably the first time I've seen you, and I wish it was on a better note. I, too, am one of those people that could high-five anybody that's going to the casino. I just want to say that there are a lot of smart people in Milford, and we would like to see the details. I'm an engineer by schooling and training, and I want to see the calculations. I want to see the assumptions. I want to be able to see the work that was done to come up with your estimates, your guesses, and, devil is in the details, and I want to see them. Thank you.
Okay. And it's a point well taken, and I know the developers also understand that. It would have been a very dry presentation had the developers put together all the assumption engineering work and put it and combined it with the slides that they had to. It's a balancing act they need to provide. I'm not defending, I'm just making a comment that we'll be seeking that, and members of the board have also asked for that same information. So we'll provide that to you as soon as we get it. Thank you. Second to last person on the list is Robert Flatley from 10 Eben Street. It's number 25.
I had the opportunity to address you guys at the citizens input at the April 8th meeting, and I brought up a number of points. And the one good thing is they were all addressed by the gentleman from Foxwoods. The bad thing was they were blatantly lies. I believe he's conscious of that. I pointed out a number of things about property values. He said no problem because nobody lives on that side of 495. I think we've heard from about 5 or 6 people tonight that do live on that side. So he's either way misinformed or flat out lying. Another point I brought out was about income. He said, pointed out that Milford is a fairly affluent town. Our average income is fairly high. He said that wouldn't be the case because the jobs are low paying, but the tips are so high, they would be competitive.
So I'm going to have to ask for your question in this.
Okay, so yeah, my question is that I had also asked about crime, specifically prostitution, and my question is, these guys are renegotiating with their creditors because they're on a sovereign nation, and their creditors are being forced to accept their terms because their property cannot be seized because it's on a sovereign nation. And my question is, if these guys are going to continue to give false information and coax us into doing this, if they can be held, they can't be held financially responsible because of the sovereign nation status. I'd like to see if they could be held criminally responsible for leading us down a wrong path. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure how to address that specifically, other than to say that the board will be working with, well, it will be working on behalf of the community. It will be working with our consultants to make sure that any agreements we put together are done so with the appropriate caveats and legal references and as airtight, if I can use that term, as possible. But at the end of the day, you can represent and have an opinion about the casino developers' comments or point of view, and those you have to personally decide at the end of the day whether this is something you support or not. It's clear to me your position, but we want to mitigate as much of that as possible. So I couldn't find a question in that.
My question is if these guys can't be held financially responsible, can they be held criminally responsible? Because if they're not, it won't only be the Johns coming to town with all the prostitutes that are going to be screwed. We'll be screwed. That's all I have to say. I do want that question answered, whether they can be held criminally responsible.
Okay, I'll seek to get guidance on that from legal counsel. I'm not an attorney myself, so I'm not able to answer it.
Mr. Chairman, one comment I'd like to make about our financial restructuring. Our financial restructuring is what's known as a consensual deal. None of our creditors' hands were forced. What we came to is the direct result of face-to-face negotiations where everybody agreed to a deal. We never filed bankruptcy. We never invoked any court system. It was a 100% consensual negotiation amongst consenting parties. And in regards to prostitution, I will tell you we have absolutely zero tolerance of prostitution. One of the things that people need to understand is in a casino, no one has a right to be in a casino. It's
Mr.
a privilege.
Mr. Flatley, I'm going to ask you to stop.
There's 66.
Mr. Flatley,
66
I'm going to
ads
rule
today.
you out of order, and I'm going to ask that you get removed if you continue. What I've said to everybody else is what I'm going to hold you to as well. Are you listening, sir? Because I am going to ask you to be removed.
I will come next meeting and address those
Listen,
items at the next
would you
meeting.
please remove yourself from the microphone? We're going to move on. I've tried to be respectful of every speaker here, and I'd ask, and I think the group has done a great job being respectful of everybody else. I'd ask that that continue.
I'd just like to humbly finish that.
Please.
It's a privilege to be in a casino. We can remove anyone from a casino at any point. My biggest theme was that the casino needs to be clean, safe, and fun. We have zero tolerance for anything that we suspect is prostitution. We have zero tolerance for anything we suspect is drunkenness. Our food and beverage manager is here right now. He will tell you that we do not serve anyone that has a hint of being drunk. Obviously, we adhere to all the liquor hours that are appropriated by the state. We have a very good record of both of those things, but we absolutely understand the concern. We absolutely don't want any of that element in our facility or this community. We offer substations under the notion of an abundance of caution because we want to ensure that these things are true.
All right, Mr. Butera, I don't want to, I appreciate your response, and your response was thoughtful. I do want to just bring attention to one point that was made. The fact of the matter is that the unique nature of your, the Foxwoods as an entity and a tribal nation makes the comments understandable in terms of renegotiating and the leverage that one might have over folks within that agreement. So you understand the nature. It's been written about a lot.
I absolutely understand. I've lived it for the last 3 years. I'd be very open to answering anyone's questions in any forum. But
Okay.
I do understand the concern, and I'm quite comfortable we can get people comfortable that that will not be an issue here.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Donna Nero from 33 Fountain Street. And that's the last speaker we have. I appreciate everybody's patience. If everybody could be respectful to the end. Good evening, Donna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the board. Research has been conducted in the U.S., and it's a known fact that 3% of the U.S. adult population is classified as pathological or problem gamblers. From that study, one of the compelling facts is that for people who live within 50 miles of a casino, the likelihood of becoming a pathological or problem gambler is doubled. So currently, the state of Connecticut has 6% of their population who qualify as pathological and problem gamblers. Before the casino was in Ledyard, Connecticut, there was one gambling treatment facility, and they now have 17 in their state. My question is, what kind of support is Foxwoods going to provide for this increased problem that is highly probable to occur in our state?
Thank you very much. Before I go to Foxwoods, I will say that the legislation as enacted provided for some level of mitigation to address that and some dollars going back to programs. That's not the total answer, though. And so the rest of the answer comes from Foxwoods, the consultants, and ultimately the board and any agreement we may be able to come to here, because that's serious. It's a serious concern. It's one that I'm sure the board members are equally concerned about. But I'll go to Foxwoods now, because the question was specifically asked of Foxwoods.
Yeah, problem gambling is something that we're all aware of and are equally concerned about. Abuse of anything is dangerous, and certainly gambling would fall into that category. We've done a lot of research ourselves. The statistics that you cite are higher than the numbers that we have, but nonetheless, we do invest millions of dollars a year to support programs to help cure problem gambling and people that have gambling addictions. I myself serve on a lot of those boards. If you were to come to Foxwoods, you'd see many information reels that I personally have given with regard to problem gambling and how to identify it and get help. So clearly we do try and prevent that. If we have exclusion lists, if we think people are suffering from problem gambling, we'll put them on an exclusion list. You can actually self-exclude. You can, if you're somebody who knows that you have a problem, you can say, I self-exclude, put yourself on a list, and you're prevented from gambling in not only our facility, but others. We do swap notes with all the other gaming operators to find out who those individuals are, so that if we see them and identify them, we stop whatever is happening. So, the number that we have is more in the neighborhood of 1.4% of the U.S. suffers from problem gambling, but we do dedicate, and we will dedicate, and we'll put it in writing in whatever agreement we come up with the community, that we will do everything we can, not only to help solve problem gambling here, but throughout the country.
Okay, thank you.
And by the way, we do the same thing with food, and whether it's abuse of food, abuse of liquor. We have healthcare programs that educate not only our customers, but our workers. We want to create a healthy environment. We're working on a clinic at Foxwoods. We'd like to have one here. So it's a lot about education, about helping people that have mental health problems, and I'm a big advocate for that. So you'll see us spending a lot of money on that front.
Thank you very much. Well, with that having been the questions, I once again want to thank everybody. We're working through this. I want to thank specifically the developers for presenting this evening. I want to thank the people who sat in the audience for a very long time to listen to this. We're not going to conclude the meeting because there's some minor, I want to say minor, some matters of the board that I didn't get to that we're going to discuss. So we're going to call a 5-minute recess, allow people to leave. What I want to do, what? Okay. I want to be able to then come back to board issues. Anybody that is here that is interested in any other agenda item can certainly can stay. We will, after a few minutes, go right into executive session. So we'll let everybody who's interested in the casino information depart now. Thank you very much.